From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Bob Redden, Johnny.
Oh, yeah, Bob. What's this? You checking to see if I'm stalling on your case?
Oh, nothing like that, Johnny.
Well, in a way, I am. I traced one of the beneficiaries to Chicago, and I've been waiting all morning for a wire on it.
We want you to drop the case.
What? You capitulating?
This is a bad week for Great Eastern. We want you to take another one. We carry a theft policy on a West Coast loan company. 3 of the branches in San Francisco were just robbed.
Uh-oh. When?
Just a matter of hours ago.
You mean all of them?
Yeah, all this morning. There was one other that wasn't ours. I got a phone call. I haven't even figured the loss yet, but it'll be way up. We'd like you to get right on it.
Sure, Bob. I'll get a plane this evening.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Great Eastern Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Porter Cole matter. Expense account item 1, $180 airfare and incidentals between Hartford and San Francisco, California. At 11, after I'd found a hotel room and breakfast, I cabbed to police headquarters, where I was shown to robbery detail and the office of a harried Lieutenant Clark.
I'm not making excuses. They put us off balance, that's all. We got the call from the place on Market Street at 9:15 yesterday morning, just a few minutes after they'd opened. While we were down there, the call came in from the Mission District. Same loan company, different branch. Then, not 40 minutes later, the other company was hit.
Quite an operation. They hit the 4th one at 5 minutes of 11.
I tell you, we had more officers on the streets than there were civilians. There hasn't been as much confusion since the quake and fire of 1906. And look here.
This is your list of witnesses?
Yeah, you can see only about 35 out of the 53 names were employees of these loan companies. They're the ones we're sure saw this bunch.
What do they give you?
You know how it goes. You have to make a sort of composite of the statements. Seems this bunch would come in, from 8 to 10 of them, all armed. 2 would take care of any customers that happened to be in the waiting room, kick them to the floor face down, and the rest would cover the office force and knock over the cashier.
What kind of disguises?
Well, some say none. Others think they saw makeup, stage makeup, you know, lines and the stuff to change the shape of the nose and so on. I'll go along with that.
Yeah, that'd be some kind of disguise.
What I got on the rest of their physical descriptions doesn't exactly hurt, but it doesn't help any either.
Not even ages? What about voices?
Only one did the talking in a high voice. Falsetto, not a woman.
Pretty well planned job, wasn't it?
4 in the space of 2 hours for $47,000? I'd say it was well planned. No prints, nobody spotted any cars, but they must have used at least 2, probably with a driver for each.
What did the rest of these witnesses see?
Oh, some of them are cranks. Some of them claim they saw the bunch come out of the buildings but didn't think anything about it until the news began to break on the robberies and so on. You know witnesses.
I'm beginning to wish they'd sent another boy from Hartford.
I wish I'd stayed in homicide. With the killing, you've at least got a stiff to work from. Yes? No, I don't want to talk to him. Tell him I'm grilling a hot suspect in Daly City. What a comedian.
Who's that?
The manager of that outfit you're interested in. Wants to know if I'm doing anything. The Port of Call Loan Company.
That's a great name.
Do you know what their motto is?
Yeah, I saw it.
When financial seas are troubled, make us your port of call. Now tell me, what self-respecting grifter could pass up an invitation like that?
San Francisco is a city of bridges with few other exits. All of these had been covered in less than an hour after the first robbery report had been phoned in. To double-check, the adjoining counties had been alerted and were swarming with men. San Francisco itself was being combed for known criminals. That left little for me to do but hang around robbery detail and wait for developments. Lieutenant Clark had been on the phone for half the afternoon, and I was in his office at 5 when it rang again.
Yes? Oh, how are you, Bruce?
Just got a missing persons report I thought might interest you.
Well, I could use something. What is it?
A woman phoned in to say her husband has been missing since yesterday sometime.
How would that fit?
Cab driver.
Oh,
She's on her way down now if you want to talk to her.
good. I do. Well, thanks a lot, Bruce. Well, it'll be a change of scenery anyway.
Something up?
That was missing persons. A woman reported her husband missing since sometime yesterday. It's a cab driver.
That's a possibility, isn't it?
I never gave it a thought. Why is it you always connect private cars to jobs like this?
It's natural to pass up cabs. They're usually a close check kept on them.
Well, we'll see. She's on her way down. I'd like to have you see her, too.
Yeah, sure.
This is Mrs. Geyer, Lieutenant Clark. I've gotten her report and told her you wanted to talk to her.
Oh, good. Thanks, Bruce.
What do you want to talk to me for? Joe hasn't done nothing wrong, has he?
Not that we know of, Mrs. Geyer.
He wouldn't do nothing wrong. He never has. Who are you?
I'm not a policeman, if that's what you mean, Mrs. Geyer.
What are you doing here? I don't understand this.
Well, I'm interested in another case that Lieutenant Clark is working on. Do you think something happened to your husband? That he had an accident in his cab? Something like that?
He didn't have an accident. His company would have known.
What company's that?
Peerless. It's a new one.
Didn't they know he was missing?
How would they know?
Doesn't he check his cab in with the company?
No, it don't work that way. He owes his old cab. Just an agreement about money and gas and a license, and then I don't understand it because Joe never talks about business. Why are you asking me these questions?
Don't you read the papers, Mrs. Geyer?
No, I don't have time with 3 kids and a roomer to take care of. What if I did read them? Does it say they found Joe dead someplace?
Nothing like that, Mrs. Geyer. I'm sorry I mentioned it.
What do they say? I got a right to know. I'll buy a paper for the streetcar on the way home anyway.
There were 4 robberies yesterday, big ones. None of the witnesses saw the cars the men got away in. Maybe they wouldn't notice a taxi.
Are you saying you think Joe was in on it?
Not necessarily, no.
Police have to ask questions like that, Mrs. Geyer.
He wouldn't do nothing wrong like that. Even if he did, I'd know about it. And then do you think I'd come down here like this?
Of course not.
Doesn't your husband ever stay away from home this long?
No, not without calling me from someplace. That's why I got to worrying. They never called at all yesterday.
What time did you leave yesterday morning?
I told the other cop that.
Why don't you tell us?
It was right before 8.
I think Mrs. Geyer can go now, don't you, Mr. Dollar?
I think she should. Go home and don't worry, Mrs. Geyer. We'll find your husband.
He's got to come back. I don't know how I'll manage with the kids if he don't.
We'll find them. You know the way out, don't you?
Yeah, this way?
That's right. Then down the corridor.
What do you think?
I don't know. That's why I had to try the robberies out on her. She could have been here to put the finger on the husband who double-crossed her. She seemed to be sure he hadn't had an accident.
Yeah, that's right.
There must be a reason all those witnesses didn't see a private car.
That figures, too.
I'll put a tail on her right now.
A phone call to the Peerless Cab Company got the number and description of Joe Guyer's cab, and a police tracer was put out on that. I think the harried lieutenant beamed a little too graciously when I asked permission to check the other Peerless drivers myself. But I did, 75 of them. Only one hadn't been heard from in the past 28 or 9 hours. Paul Landini, with an address on Turk Street, an apartment house whose manager boarded some of the tenants, among them Landini.
Who knows about Paul ever? He wasn't here for the meal last night, but what is that?
Does he live alone here?
Yes.
I take it you mean he was off and away from home at dinner time.
He had personality. He often goes someplace else to eat.
Do you know if he came home at all last night?
My tenants live their own lives. I don't run a girls' school here.
Did you show me his apartment?
Why should I?
I told you it might be very important.
You didn't tell me what you mean.
He might even be dead.
Oh, not Paul. Why do you want to look in his apartment?
I don't expect to find him there, but there's a chance of finding something else.
What?
I don't know. I told you this was police business. You want to cooperate, or don't you?
Oh, sure I do. I'll take you up.
I didn't find even a trace of a lead in Landini's apartment. Lieutenant Clark, when I talked to him, had the same report to make on his tale of Mrs. Joe Geyer. By then, it was time to have a late dinner and go to bed, which is what I did. The next morning, the 2 missing drivers and their cabs still had not been found. The police report on Mrs. Geyer hadn't offered anything. The $47,000 in stolen funds could have been that many miles away from San Francisco. Through the morning and early afternoon, a dozen general suspects were questioned and released. And then, sometime after 3, the body of a man was found floating in a slough in the upper reaches of the bay. He fitted the description of Joe Geyer, and an hour or so later, his wife arrived to make identification.
Mrs. Geyer, could you swear that this body is that of your husband, Joseph Geyer?
No. No, it's not Joe.
Mrs. Geyer, he fits your description of your husband.
I don't care. It's not Joe.
You sure you aren't holding anything back from us?
Yeah, I'm sure it's not Joe. I'd know my own husband, wouldn't I?
Yes, you would, Mrs. Geyer.
My husband was dead, and this was him. I'd tell you, wouldn't I?
I hope so. I think you would.
Why wouldn't I? It's not Joe. I don't know who it is. I never saw him in my whole life, and I can prove it. I swear it, I never saw this man in my whole life.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. There's one married couple you can always depend on for fun on Saturday evenings, and to invite them over is as easy as staying tuned to CBS. They're Lucille Ball and that man she calls my favorite husband. And a nice thing about them is you don't have to get involved in the strange predicaments they get into. All you have to do is sit back and laugh at the results. How's for asking them in this evening? Lucille Ball and my favorite husband will be waiting on most of these same CBS stations. Now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mrs. Geyer was released not because we believed in her lack of identification, but because we thought there were better ways to approach her than hard police questioning. I arrived at her small frame house not long after she had.
What do you want?
I thought I'd better come and see you.
You can't come in.
I want to help you if I can.
Should I need any help from you? I don't need any. Go away.
Wait a minute.
Get your foot out. You got no right to do this.
Now, wait a minute. There are other ways to identify that body. Then you'll be in trouble, won't you?
I don't care. It wasn't Joe.
Open the door, Mrs. Geyer.
You can't come in.
Why did you get so upset if it wasn't your husband? You cried.
I couldn't help it. Never saw a dead body before. I went to pieces thinking, what if it had been Joe?
You know, the police think you're lying.
I am not. Why should I? Joe hasn't done nothing wrong, and I haven't either. Now go away and leave me alone. I got ironing to do.
Because when you've been in that business as long as I have, you learn to study people.
Now, that's fine. This is Mr. Dollar, the man I mentioned from the insurance company.
Oh, yes. Well, how do you do, sir?
This is Mr. Prince, the cashier at the Port of Call office in the Mission.
No. Oh, it's nice to know you, Mr. Prince.
Thank you.
He looked at that body, and he seems to be fairly sure that it's the one who did the talking during the robbery at his place.
I'm sure it is.
Oh, I hope you're right.
Oh, of course. He did look different with that makeup, his nose, and his cheekbones.
Yeah, but you're still sure.
Yes, I am. I've been with the Port of Call for almost 10 years. And as I was telling Lieutenant Clark, when you've been in the loan business as long as that, you learn to study people.
I suppose you would.
You meet so many, and while they're talking about the loan they want, you sort of unconsciously study them to try and find out how much truth they're telling. But, I remember that man, no makeup or no, yes.
What in particular do you remember?
Oh, a lot of things. He walked right up to me, you know. I remember his eyes and his ears, and I remember his hands. They were manicured. And he wore a ring on his third finger left.
There's polish on the nails, all right. He didn't have a ring when he was brought in, but there's the mark of one, and it's third finger left.
I wish there were more witnesses like you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks very much for coming down, Mr. Prince.
Well, that's quite all right.
And I hope we don't have to trouble you again.
Well, there's no trouble at all, Lieutenant. I'll be glad to be of service to you. Good day.
Good day,
Goodbye,
Mr.
Mr.
Prince.
Prince. Well, it looks like we've got that much anyway, Dollar. Run quite a few of the loan company people past the body, and almost half thought he was the one, the falsetto.
Well, that's something, but dead men don't answer many questions.
I've noticed that. I understand Mrs. Geyer didn't answer many either.
Well, how did you... Oh, you still got men on it, huh?
Yeah, I haven't been able to spare any relief, so that pair I assigned yesterday's been on the plant day and night. So when somebody finally showed up, they thought they'd broken the case. They didn't know you.
She wouldn't let me in, and she didn't change her story.
We'll check her. We've got a man from the cab company coming down.
Lieutenant, didn't she say that she had a roomer yesterday? Remember, she asked if she'd read the paper, and she said
Guess by that time I'd asked a few thousand questions.
She did. She said she didn't have time to read the paper with 3 kids and a roomer to take care of.
I think I remember that.
Well, it's something we should check. Your men say that outside of me, nobody has shown up at her house, huh? Even staying out last night, you'd think this room had come back sometime for clothes or something.
We'll try it. Bruce, send 2 plainclothesmen out to the Geyer home on 4th Avenue and talk to the neighbors on each side. I need somebody who knows the Geyer's roomer by sight. I want them to look at a body.
Well, the lights are on. I guess she's home.
Which one is it?
One with a porch light.
Sure turning into a nice night.
Yeah.
10 o'clock?
Huh? Oh, Pritchard.
What are you doing out here, sir?
I'm going to talk to the woman.
A note from me relief?
I'll have a relief out here in an hour. 9 o'clock. That's a promise. I'm sorry about the rain.
Yes.
I'm afraid you'll have to let us in this time, Mrs. Geyer.
What are you talking about?
This is a warrant. We're here legally. I want you to tell me the truth. When did you last see the man who rooms here?
I don't know. I don't remember.
That isn't the truth. You saw him this afternoon.
You saw him at the morgue and you didn't tell us who he was. Why not?
Don't you wake up my kids.
Answer my questions, Mrs. Geyer.
I was afraid to tell you.
Why were you afraid?
Because with Joe gone like this, I thought something had happened. I know I should have told you, but I couldn't. He's my husband.
What were you afraid had happened?
Joe and me argued sometimes about Mr. Grace.
Grace, what's his first name?
I thought you knew about him.
The neighbors identified his body, but they couldn't remember his name.
Name was Ted Grace.
Your husband was jealous of Grace, Mrs. Geyer?
We argued sometimes. He was a salesman, and some weeks he'd have a lot of money, and I told Joe he ought to sell his cab and be a salesman, too. He got the wrong idea and thought I was falling for Mr. Grace. I wasn't. And I couldn't ever make him believe me all the way.
Why did he let Grace live here if he felt that way?
He needed the money.
Do you think your husband killed Grace?
I don't know. I'm afraid to tell you. I knew Mr. Grace for fear he did.
That's what happened. He didn't kill him out of jealousy. Grace was mixed up in those robberies I told you about. Do you remember?
I got the newspapers.
That's what we're here to clear up. We want you to tell us everything you know about Grace.
I never talked to him much. How do you know he was mixed up in it?
You'll have to take our word for that. Come on, you must know something about him. How long has he been living here?
About 6 months.
You know where he came from?
He never said.
Must have had some friends. Didn't anybody come to see him?
No.
You have a telephone. Did anybody ever phone him?
Yeah, a man used to call him.
The same one all the time?
Yes.
Must have given you his name sometime.
No, he didn't.
Did he ever call while Ted Grace was gone?
Yeah, once in a while.
What then? Didn't Grace leave a number or someplace where he could be reached?
Usually a place called a Furlong over on Fulton.
Why didn't you tell us that? Why do we have to drag these things out of you? What else are you holding back from us?
Nothing. I just can't think. I just can't think of anything but where's Joe and why don't he come back?
Wasn't there anything different the morning he left?
No, nothing.
Was Grace here at that time?
He left too.
About the same time?
Right after. Joe's mixed up in those robberies. It's my fault because I talk so much about money. Well, he can hate me for that, but what about the kids? He can't leave them for me to take care of alone, can he?
We better take a look at Grace's room, don't you think, Lieutenant?
Which one is it, Mrs. Geyer?
Ted Grace's effects told a lot more about him than his landlady had. A drawer full of racing forms made it appear that the man who phoned had probably been his bookie. The colors of Ted Grace's ties and shirts, an array of cheap men's toiletries, painted a pretty good picture of the character he'd been. But the contents of the waste paper basket made him out the mastermind of the whole series of robberies. Shredded paper. We didn't try to assemble all the pieces there, but we fished through enough to learn they'd been applications for loans from the victim companies.
Made out while he cased the offices. Look at the blank side.
Yeah, the floor plans drawn out. Hey, look here, a name, Tony. Positions, movements were marked down, too.
Here's another name, Mark.
Yeah.
Let's not waste any more time here. I'll take them down to headquarters, get somebody to paste them up.
I guess we've covered the place all right. Pretty obvious he expected to come back here, though.
Yeah. I have a feeling the rest of them might still be in the city.
Me, too. I think that might have been the plan.
You going now?
Yeah, we'll go.
Unless you have something more to tell us.
I don't know any more to tell you. All this big mess, and I don't understand any of it. I don't know what it's all about.
No, we're sorry it happened. I hope it'll turn out all right for you. Good night, Mr. Guy.
Till 10 o'clock.
Yes, Pritchard.
The radio car stopped by with a message for you. But I didn't want to come in with a woman there. Her husband's dead. So's the other driver, Landini.
Where were they found?
In their cabs in the vacant garage out toward the beach.
Who's on it?
Lieutenant McMillan.
All right, I'll contact him.
And don't forget our reliefs.
I won't. Well, there goes Geyer and Landini.
Elimination for more profit?
That or cutting the links between the rest of the bunch and the only tangible things we've had, the cabs.
That could be. Hey, if you want to drop me at that bar she mentioned, the Furlong, I'll see what I can pick up there.
Sure, if you want to. I'll stay in my office till I hear from you.
Good evening, sir.
Hi. I guess a rye and soda.
Oh, you must be an Easterner. I don't get many calls for rye except from them.
Well, that's almost right. I transplanted myself out here. Say, I'm looking for a guy I think you know, Ted Grace. Has he been in tonight?
Who?
Ted Grace. I understand he's in here quite a bit.
Wait till I find that rye bottle. This all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
You see, I'm not the regular bartender. I don't know your friend, by name, anyway.
Thanks. That's all right.
Thanks.
Hey, what about a couple of guys Ted knows, then? One named Mark, the other's Tony something.
No, guess I can't help you. I usually work a place down on Gary. I don't know this one very well.
Well, it's not important. I'll look around, maybe come back. See you later.
Yeah. Good night.
Hey, Tony, send over another scotch and soda for Edna, will you? Hey, Tony, over here, it's me.
It was hard not to turn around or at least stop moving, but I managed to walk out as if I hadn't heard, turn down the sidewalk for a count of 5, and then back to the window. Tony was forgetting his customers. He was heading towards the rear of the room. When he got there, he disappeared into a phone booth. I've heard that a lot of cases are broken through a stroke of luck, but it very seldom happens to me. My own phone call from a gas station brought Lieutenant Clark and an extra squad car to the Furlong Bar in less than 20 minutes. The place was cleared of people, and Tony stood alone behind the bar, giving away his guilt by his expression and the apron he kept twisting in his hand.
Leave your apron alone.
What is all this?
Who did you phone right after I left?
Home to say I'd be late.
That's not true. The call was traced.
You're crazy. How could you trace it?
If you were calling home, why should you care if it was traced or not? Now, who did you call?
I can make a phone call if I want to, can't I?
That isn't the question. What makes you so nervous?
You guys busting in like this, what do you expect?
To find a guy named Tony. What's your last name, Tony?
Cunliffe.
That's what I came here for, too, Tony. When we found him, all we were going to do was ask him to tell us where he was the other morning while those loan company officers were being knocked over. And if he couldn't, we were going to see him booked for 3 killings. Ted Grace and Joe Geyer and Paul Landini.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're bluffing, but you're bluffing the wrong guy.
I'm glad to hear that. We wouldn't want to see an innocent man booked for something he didn't do. So let's clear it up. How do we start proving where you were between 9 and about 11 the other morning?
Come on, where were you?
I was home asleep.
Then a lot of people must hate you.
Who?
The people who said they saw you leave your place about 8 o'clock.
What's the use? I don't know if you're bluffing or not.
We aren't. In Grace's room, we found the floor plans of all those officers with the names of all of you. He talked to Joe Geyer's wife. She knew about you and Mark.
You just made a confession. Do you want to take the whole rap yourself?
No. If I'd known there was going to be any killing, I wouldn't have got mixed up in it. When there was, I knew the whole thing would blow up.
Who did the killing?
There were 3 of them. Harvey Shute, Vic Lincoln, and Neil White. I'm not sure which one did.
Who were they?
I don't know. They got out of prison someplace in the east about 6 months ago. We met them and got running around with them. We'd been playing the horses, not doing so well. And they said if we got a big stake, they knew how to make a killing. That's the way it started.
Who's we, Tony?
My friends, Mark Rose and Leo Barrett. Ted Grace.
Is that all?
I'm giving you my friends. That's enough, isn't
What
it?
about Joe Geyer?
No, they just called him to get his cab to use instead of cars. He wasn't in it.
That was Ted Grace's idea.
I guess so. The smart guy.
You were all pretty smart.
And what about Landini?
He was called, too. I don't know what happened. They went crazy after we got the money. They were like different people that I didn't know. Could have killed all of us if we crossed them.
Were they on narcotics?
I don't know. I don't know much about that. But they could have been.
Where are they?
Might as well tell you, I guess. The whole thing is blown wide open. They're staying in the Metropolitan Auto Court out on Bayshore Highway.
Which cabin?
Second one on the right.
Where's the money?
We split it before we separated. You could have my share. I wish you would buy back the last few days.
Come on, Tony. I'll send you down to the station.
Two more squad cars had been added by the time we got started. No trouble was expected or had picking up the other two San Francisco men, Mark Rose and Leo Barrett. But at the Metropolitan Auto Court, where the three ex-convicts were staying, trouble was expected.
Well, I think that's about the best we can do. There are two exits. We've got both of them covered.
The other people who might be staying here?
Well, they'll be all right, even if there's firing. As long as we can keep these comedians inside, or at least just trying to get out.
That's your case.
We'll have to try to it anyway. I'll go wake them up. If this gale hasn't already.
Now, don't be a hero.
You in there. Open up. I'm a police officer.
Lieutenant Clark!
Lieutenant!
I shot the lieutenant! Cover me on the door, Hudson!
Watch the window! Get down, Sergeant! When it was finished, one of them was alive. The other two in the cabin were ripped to pieces. But that and the recovery of the money hardly paid for the loss of Lieutenant Clark, who died before he reached the hospital. Expense account item 2, $75.30, miscellaneous in San Francisco. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $450.60. Remarks? It probably isn't important, but there's an odd commentary to this. The gunfight and Lieutenant Clark's death made only a column on page 2 of the morning paper. The storm he died in grabbed the page 1 headlines. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's latest picture is a Paramount Pictures production, Warpath. Featured in tonight's cast were Howard McNear, Ed Begley, Hy Averback, Jim Nusser, Virginia Gregg, and Janet Scott. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting, inviting you to join us next week at the same time when Edmund O'Brien returns as
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
You can sing it again this evening on CBS, and if Dan Seymour calls you, maybe you can sing it out the name of the fabulous Phantom and win $5,000 in cold hard cash, plus $10,000 more in fine prizes. Worth it? You bet it is. For Sing It Again also brings you a whole hour of grand musical fun as you listen to Alan Dale, Judy Lynn, Bob Howard, the Riddlers, and Ray Bloch's orchestra. Sing It Again comes to you every Saturday evening on most of these same CBS stations. Sing it again this evening, won't you? And now, stay tuned for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where everyone laughs at Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy every Sunday night. The Columbia Broadcasting System. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Dollar, this is Miss Beale at the travel office calling back. I got your plane space all right.
Oh, good. Wait till I get a pencil. Okay.
You leave Idlewild tomorrow morning at 9 on National Flight 405, and you reach New Orleans tomorrow evening at 5:01.
5:01. Got it.
You'll have to stay in New Orleans overnight, and the earliest flight I could get out of there is Pan American number 701 the next morning at 8.
8 o'clock.
That'll put you in Managua at 5:50 that evening. There's a train from there to San Juan del Sur.
Oh, that part of it should be fun.
The fare one way, including tax, is $216.55. Why don't you buy a round trip?
Well, just habit, I guess, superstition. I don't like to presume I'm going to get back from any of these trips I make. That would really be asking for trouble.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Britannia Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the David Rockey matter. Expense account item 1, $4.50, transportation from Hartford to New York City. Item 2, $1.20 cab fare to the hiring hall of the National Maritime Union.
Tom?
I talked with you on the phone, Mr. Richter. Dollar?
Oh, yeah. Well, like I told you then, your man is in San Juan del Sur. Or if he left, we don't know about it.
I hope he's there. I've got plane reservations.
I called the Edwardson line. That's the outfit he was sailing for. I want to double check on our records, and theirs are the same. He missed his sailing in San Juan del Sur. They signed on a local man as far as Panama.
The ship was the Lyle Edwardson?
That's it.
Can you give me anything that would help identify him?
Well, here's his signature and his last job assignment card.
Oh. Can I keep this?
I guess so, sure.
Thanks.
Let's see, here's his membership book number, 146544.
Uh-huh. All right. Would you happen to have any photographs in your file?
No, but the Coast Guard office would, on his certificate of identification and certificate of service. They'll both be in a file on him over there.
Good, that's what I need. I wouldn't know him if I did find him.
I'll fix you up. Naturally, I'm curious, you flying all the way down to that port. What do you want with this David Rockey? Mind telling me?
He just became a millionaire.
What?
Well, when Rocky was a kid, he was adopted by a Titus Morgan in Boston. Wealthy man. He just died, leaving everything to Rocky.
And he'll like that.
$1.5 million, including $50,000 in insurance. That put me on the case.
How would you like to get some news like that?
I don't think I could take it. Well, thanks a lot, Mr. Richter.
That was nothing. Yeah, when you find this guy, ask him if he can spare a few bucks for the seaman's home, will you?
From the Coast Guard documents on David Rockey, I memorized his picture, and the next morning, I left New York. Expense account item 3, $297 fare and incidentals to Managua. Item 4, $35, a charter plane I finally arranged for the next day that put me in San Juan del Sur at 3 o'clock the next afternoon. I found hotel accommodations and then looked up the local office of David Rockey's last employers, the Edwardson Steamship Lines.
Well, that's it. Oh. Good afternoon.
Hello. My name is Doll. I just arrived from Hartford, Connecticut.
Well. My name is Wall, Clayton Wall. How do you do?
Mr. Wall?
Why on earth would anyone leave Hartford to come to a place like this?
I'm an insurance investigator. I was sent down here to find a seaman who sailed on one of your ships, David Rockey. Remember him?
Oh, yes. Certainly I remember him. Did you say insurance investigator?
That's right. Why did you ask that?
Why, just wondered. What do you want with him?
He has some money coming from a policy and an estate.
Oh. I think I'd go back to Hartford, Mr. Dollar.
Why?
David Rockey is not in a position to hear about money up in the States.
Oh?
He's in jail. He's being charged with murder.
Oh, I see. When did this happen?
I'm afraid I don't have all the particulars. The papers, they aren't famous here for accurate reporting. But he missed his ship, you know. That was not quite 2 weeks ago.
Yes, I've been told that.
I believe the reason was a drinking bout. And as a result of it, this employee of ours, a Nicaraguan, was killed. Stabbed to death, I believe.
Why didn't anybody know about this in New York, his union or your company?
Things move very slowly down here.
Well, you must be in contact with your New York office.
My communications are of a purely business nature, Mr. Dollar. I suppose that sounds rather inhumane.
Yes, matter of fact, it does.
This office handles many thousands of dollars each year for the company, and I have to protect its position.
You mean that's why you didn't report this trouble of Rocky's?
And if I had, it would have meant interference with the officials.
And that wouldn't have been good for you.
It would not. One who wants to continue in business here doesn't interfere with the Guardia Nacional. It is both military and police. And like in all countries, they have legal procedures.
I take it you haven't seen Rocky since he was arrested.
No, I haven't.
Well, I hope you don't mind if I do.
I'll be blunt with you. As long as the interference doesn't stem from this office, I think it's highly in order. I wish you luck, Mr. Dollar. And I'd like to have you tell me how you come out. I'm not as heartless as I sound.
No, sure. Just a good businessman. Before I tackled them, I learned what I could about the police setup in Nicaragua. The Guardia had been organized originally by American Army and Marine officers. A lot of what I dug up would have been good news to criminals, a couple of thousand men enforcing laws in the country about the size of New York State. But at least it looked like I'd find somebody who could speak English. I did, but that was all there was in my favor.
You cannot talk to him. He's a prisoner, and I will not have people talk to him.
Why not, Sergeant? Why don't you want me to see him?
It's for me to say. That is my order.
You're an important man, I understand that, but there are some who are more important.
What do you say?
You're evidently used to dealing with people who are afraid of you. I don't have any reason to be afraid of you.
Importance? I do not understand. And fear?
I'm here under the proper papers. They give me certain rights. David Rockey was under papers, too. He has rights. Does he have a lawyer?
He does not want one.
That's difficult to believe.
You think I lie?
I think you'd better let me go see him.
No. He's a prisoner.
Prisoner or not, he has a right to see me. I'll go to the American consul in Managua if I have to. You must know where he'll go, to your superior officers. You can't do this because of personal feelings, Sergeant.
You say 10 minutes, no more.
Thanks. Maybe that'll be enough.
Who is it?
Don't you have a light?
No. Who is it?
My name is Dollar, Rocky. I came down from the States to find you.
That's a laugh. I know how these things go. They haven't even heard about it up there, so why should anybody come looking for me?
Titus Morgan died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What does that have to do with it?
He, left you a little money, some insurance. Company wanted to find you so they could clear their books.
This a fact?
Yeah. What about this murder charge?
If you've been outside, you know more about it than I do. This is where I woke up, and this is where I've been. I don't know what's going on.
What do you mean, this is where you woke up?
I got drunk. I don't remember getting here.
You know about the murder charge?
Oh, yeah, they told me about that.
What happened?
I don't know. I drank too much. It almost seems like I got a Mickey.
Did you kill this guy?
Are you on the level?
Certainly I am. Here, hold my wallet while I get a match. That's my operating license. My cards are inside.
Connecticut. It's close to home. I'm sorry I was so suspicious, but You could have been working for the police, coming in here to give me some false hope and make me blab.
What about the killing?
I don't remember. I don't know what happened. His name was Sagasa. He was foreman of the longshoreman crew that loaded us.
I know that.
Well, I didn't have to stand watch that night, so I went with him. I've done it before. I knew him. There were all these drinks at his place finally with his wife. I remember midnight, but not much after that, except half remembering going to bed because I was so stiff.
You went to bed there?
I'm not even sure of that. I think so. I don't remember going anyplace else. And believe me, I've been trying to.
What then?
I don't know. Almost like a nightmare. I can remember the police being there. In the morning, I was here. And that Sergeant Ortega won't tell me what's going on or let me see anybody. I don't even know how he was killed.
He'd been stabbed. He was lying on the floor in the middle of the front room.
I wouldn't have any reason to kill Emiliano.
You remember who was with you?
Yeah, there was his wife, as I said.
What's her name?
Misha.
Tell me about her.
Well, there's nothing about her. She's Sagasa's wife. After I met him, I met her. I've made this port quite a few times and got to know them both.
Mm-hmm. Who else was with you?
2 other men. One was Dave Light. He was a crew member of the ship, so he's gone. The other is Chris Binstead. He's in charge of the warehouses here for the Edwards and Company. Then there was another girl, Alicia. I don't know where she came from.
I'll find out.
You're really going to look into it?
Yeah. I don't see an American sitting here in a black cell without somebody helping him.
I won't say I've been praying, but if I had been, you'd sure be the answer to them.
I'll let you know what I find out.
And Mr. Morgan died.
That's right.
He was a great man. I wish I'd stayed home.
I'll try to see you tomorrow night.
Hey, let me out.
I couldn't see him. The cell was that dark. But when the door clanged shut behind me, I realized the irony of the situation. The heir to $1.5 million fortune in a jail cell in Nicaragua without rights, privileges, or even light.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Every Saturday night, Americans from coast to coast play Sing It Again. Do you? Well, if you don't know the fun and excitement you're missing. Prizes galore, plus a special jackpot prize if you can name the Phantom Voice. So stay at home, play at home on Saturday nights, when over many of these same CBS stations, Dan Seymour says it's Sing It Again. And now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now you saw the prisoner don't trouble me no more.
He told me he wouldn't have any reason to kill the man, Sergeant.
That's what he said.
And that he doesn't remember killing him.
That's what he said, too. And why?
He says he was drunk, yes. But he remembers other things, like the police being there. Seems to me he'd remember killing somebody.
Why you think he tell the truth if he do remember?
It just seems to me that he was telling the truth.
You are too innocent, senor.
Maybe. But I'd like to know what you've got on him.
I do not understand.
Well, what are you building your case on? Just the fact that he says he doesn't remember? He says he'd have no reason to kill Emiliano. What motive are you using?
Motive? The wife.
You mean there was something between Rockey and the wife?
To herself, she is a cat, and all men, they are mice for her.
All right, that's something. It wouldn't be enough in my country.
No?
That's nothing but the vaguest kind of circumstantial evidence. Don't you have anything real? The murder weapon, for example?
It was not found.
What about the fatal wounds, then? What kind of a knife made them, do you think?
It was a wide knife.
Uh-huh. As a seaman, Rockey could have been carrying a knife, but it would have been a small one. Did you think of that?
We searched him. He did not have a knife. He threw it away.
How do you know he threw it away?
He did not have it. You believe in his lies. I tell you what the people say who were with him.
I don't want to hear your version of what they said. I'll talk to them myself.
No, you do not. You do not interfere.
Look, as far as you're concerned, he's guilty until he can be proved innocent. And you don't want anybody to try and do that. Now, don't try to stop me, Sergeant, if you don't want your superiors on your neck.
You'll be in trouble, too. You are careful.
first move was to get a cable off to Hartford advising the company of the situation and suggesting that the Titus Morgan estate send a lawyer to San Juan del Sur as quickly as possible. By then, it was 5 p.m. Through Clayton Wall in the Edwardson office, I found the address of the Sagasa widow, one in a section of houses that the company had improved for their employees. Mrs. Sagasa was an attractive, unusually fair-skinned woman of maybe 23 or 4, who was outside enjoying the moist wind of evening when I arrived. She, too, spoke English.
The company taught me. I work there.
Oh, it seems to be a good company. Does a lot for its San Juan people.
Sometimes I think it is good. But then sometimes I think it would be better never to know any Americans. But they bring me many presents from America.
David Rockey and who else?
The other sailor from the ship, the one named David.
Light?
Yes, that one too. And one called Robert.
What did your husband say about all these presents? Didn't he mind?
Only sometimes he was angry. He would say, "You are my wife. You don't take these things." And I say, "Yes, Emiliano. I'm your wife. And these things don't change that." And he would smile and he was not angry anymore.
Was he angry about David Rockey?
Sometimes.
You know he's in jail, don't you?
Yes, I know.
Did you see him kill your husband?
No.
I understand you were here.
Yes, I was here with Alicia. We came out here. It was hot inside.
Oh. And the men were still inside, huh? Dave Light and Rockey and your husband?
Yes.
And there was one other, wasn't there? What was his name, Binstead?
Yes, Chris Binstead.
Did you hear anything from out here?
Well, only talking.
All of them talking?
I think so.
David Rockey thinks he remembers lying down while he was here.
I think he stood up.
He was up when you came out of your house?
Yes, I think so. It was... Well, there was a lot of rum.
Yes, I know. Had there been any trouble? Any arguments?
No, I don't think so.
Don't you remember?
There was only trouble when Chris ran out. Then Emiliano stayed.
What did Chris say?
He said, "Dave, he cut Emiliano."
Dave who?
Only Dave.
Could he have meant Dave Light?
Well, I don't know.
Was Dave Light still in the house?
No, he was gone to bring the Guardia.
Look, it's very important that I learn all the truth about what happened. The Guardia have made up their minds that David Rockey killed your husband. If he did, he'll be punished. But if he didn't, that's got to be proved. I came here to tell him that, well, that he had a new life to live.
New life? What does this mean, his new life?
David Rockey is a rich man in America now.
Rich man?
You know how much $1 million is?
No.
Well, it's more than you or your children or your grandchildren could ever spend here in San Juan. David Rockey has more than that now. He doesn't know. I came here to tell him about it. But when I found out about your husband, I didn't.
Oh, no. He would surely curse God if you told him.
You understand now why I have to learn the truth, don't you?
Yes.
All right. Then will you take me into your house and try to remember everything that happened before you and Alicia went outside? Another Edwardson ship had docked that evening, and I found Chris Binstead on the wharf supervising the placement of the cargo that was streaming into the warehouse. He didn't want to, but he turned his job over to a helper and led me up some stairs to his office in the loft of the building.
I don't quite get you being down here. You say Dave Rockey came into some money, huh?
Yeah, a little. From an insurance policy.
Somebody in his family?
He didn't have any family.
That's what I thought. He never talked about having a home or anything. Did you get in to see him?
Yeah, I saw him. It's a whale of a spot he's in.
Yeah. I feel sorry for him, but what else can you expect?
Did you see him kill Sagasa, Chris?
Yeah. And I don't want to see anything like that again.
What happened exactly?
Well, the whole thing was that everybody'd been drinking too much. He passed out and laid down on a cot. If he'd stayed there, everything would have been all right. But Misha, she's nothing but a package of trouble anyway. She had to go over and try to wake him up. She said something that got her husband started.
What do you mean, started?
Yeah, riled up, something personal. So he goes over and dumps Rockey on the floor and tells him to get out and not come back. Rockey hit him once and then went out in the kitchen, got the knife, came back.
Misha told me she was outside.
Yeah, she was. I sent both the women out when the trouble started.
She said there hadn't been any trouble.
She knows better than that.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I can't see why she'd lie.
I never figured them out, any of them. Anyway, Rocky came back with a knife, and they called each other some names, and then all of a sudden there was Emiliano on the floor.
Then what?
Yeah, that was the end of it. Went and told Misha what had happened. Dave Light went after the Guardia.
What did you say to Misha?
Oh, I just told her that Rocky had killed her husband.
She says you told her Dave did, that you didn't say Rocky.
Well, maybe I did say Dave, but I meant Dave Rocky. What are you pressing me for?
Just trying to find out what happened.
I told you what happened.
How about this Dave Light? How come he was able to climb aboard his ship and leave?
Yeah, he reported the thing. Mr. Wall at the main office talked to the Guardia, and they let him go. What is all this, Dollar? You got the facts.
It's funny that David Rocky doesn't remember killing him.
Is that what he says? He doesn't remember?
A man who does a thing like that when he's blind drunk is usually following his subconscious mind. That would mean that when he's sober, he probably would have thought about killing Emiliano.
So?
That would mean that the motive might be the elimination of the husband. Now, I can't figure a seaman who's here in San Juan only a few days at a time even thinking of going to these lengths to get rid of Misha's husband.
What are you driving at, Dollar?
I'm thinking out loud, I guess. Why?
That'd better be all.
I guess you have to get back to work, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for seeing me. It was coal black when I left and made my way on foot back to my hotel. A message was waiting for me at the desk. Please phone Mr. Clayton Wall.
Oh, Mr. Dollar, I've been waiting for you to call.
Yes, Mr. Wall, what is it?
The widow, Micha, came to my house. She wanted to get in touch with you.
That's funny. I gave her my hotel.
You were out and she couldn't find you.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's it. What does she want?
She didn't tell me, but she'll be at her house and would like to have you come there.
All right, I'll go right over. Mr. Dollar.
Oh, you don't come before this.
Well, I was busy asking questions. I saw Chris Binstead.
What did he say?
It's hard to tell the lies from the alcoholic confusion.
I don't understand you.
I don't understand it either, Misha. Well, why'd you want to see me?
I found a knife
Oh? Where?
behind that
chest?
Yes. It's there. I didn't touch it.
Why wasn't it found before?
The Guardia, they didn't look.
How did you happen to find it?
I don't know. After you leave, I started to think, and something told me, look there.
Now tell me the truth, Misha.
I tell the truth.
You want to help David Rockey?
If I can help.
All right. Then don't say anything about finding the knife. Not to anybody.
I don't tell.
You didn't tell Mr. Wall?
He asked me, but I don't tell.
All right, leave it that way. Don't say anything to anybody. I slept after that, almost the first sleep I'd had since I left New York. And the first thing the next morning, I arranged for another charter plane to Managua. In it, I sent the murder weapon and the only other thing I could think of that carried David Rockey's fingerprints. My wallet that he'd held while I showed him my identification. After a meal that passed for breakfast, I went back to see him.
I've been going crazy in here. What have you found out?
Oh, not much. Some of it good, some bad. We'll have to wait till this afternoon to do any more.
Seems like this is a hangover I'm never going to get over. The times I haven't been going crazy, I've been thinking of Mr. Morgan. How did he die?
Heart.
He wasn't very old. I keep remembering what he said when I left, that there were two worlds and that I was picking the wrong one. He adopted me, you know.
Yeah. I talked to his lawyers, but I didn't get the whole story.
It doesn't make any difference, I guess, except that I could have made him a lot happier than I did. He had a son of his own that got killed in an auto accident when he was 14. The mother, too.
I didn't know that.
I was the same age, and I was supposed to take his son's place. Mr. Morgan found me in a state home, took me in. Gave me everything, put me through school, high school.
Why did you leave him?
Guess I'd lived too long in the other world or something. I always felt like an outsider. Then the war came along, and I went into the merchant marine.
How old are you now, Rocky?
27. I went back after the war, but I wasn't cut out for it, I guess. Tuxedos and formal dinners and dames I didn't understand. The rest of the people who never seemed to say what they were thinking.
Yeah, there are plenty of those.
I tried because I knew Mr. Morgan wanted me to. There was just something rough in me that I couldn't hold down. And there were a couple of things with these stuffed shirts, fights. Finally, a few years back, I got up and left without saying anything to Mr. Morgan.
I got no sermon to preach.
I know it wasn't the way to do it. And he left me some insurance anyway. How do you like that guy?
Have you been thinking about the Sagasa thing, Rocky?
I've been trying.
You can't remember any more?
No. Does it look bad?
I can't tell about these other people.
I wouldn't have killed him. Misha's trouble, I know that, but I wouldn't have killed him. I didn't have any reason to.
It's been my approach, but I haven't proved anything with it. You sit tight until I come back. Oh, here. Brought you some cigarettes. I got an answer that morning on my cable to Hartford. The Morgan estate was sending a lawyer. Then I waited until the middle of the afternoon when the charter plane came back from Managua with the results of the fingerprint tests. There was only one place to go.
Mr. Dollar?
Why didn't you give me a straight story at the beginning, Rocky?
Oh, what do you mean?
Why didn't you tell me you killed him?
Did I kill him?
You know you did.
No, I swear I don't. I don't remember.
You mean that, don't you?
I don't remember, Mr. Dollar. I don't remember. Did I kill him?
Didn't you ever think of getting Sagasa out of the way?
Yeah. He was in the way. Did I kill him?
I've been looking for evidence that would say you didn't. What I found says you did.
What?
Your fingerprints on the knife, and no other fingerprints at all. They couldn't have been faked. There was only one way to get them there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So am I.
I didn't mean to. I had no reason to. Why did I? Well, things happen, I guess. It could have happened to anybody who doesn't have any more sense than I do. I got nobody to blame. Nobody.
Expense account, item 5, same as items 3 and 4, transportation back to Hartford. Item 6, miscellaneous, $235. Expense account total, $840.75. Remarks? I'm sorry the mission wasn't more successful. The estate lawyer arrived before I left, and although he wasn't familiar with Nicaraguan courts, he felt that David Rockey had a chance on a second-degree murder plea. None of us knew what the terms would be. But we did know that $1.5 million was worth waiting for. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's latest picture is the Paramount Pictures production, The Redhead and the Cowboy. Featured in tonight's cast were Lillian Baeff, Bill Conrad, Tyler McVeigh, Edgar Barrier, Jay Novello, and Jack Moyles. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting, inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There's Saturday night fun with the young married set when Lucille Ball and her favorite husband come along later this evening on most of these same CBS stations. You'll enjoy the laughs with Lucille Ball as she tries to help, but more often hinders the man she calls my favorite husband. And now, stay tuned for Von Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where Hopalong Cassidy rides every Saturday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mitchell Kendall, Mr. Dollar. You called my office?
Oh, yes, Mr. Kendall. I'm an insurance investigator from Hartford, Connecticut. I was sent out here to look into the Jarvis Wilder killing by the company that holds the policy on his life.
Oh, yes. But haven't you called the wrong lawyer, Mr. Dollar? I'm defending Mrs. Wilder, not prosecuting her.
I understand that. I'm not a prosecution witness, not yet anyway.
I'm glad to hear that. Insurance money had nothing to do with the situation, Mr. Dollar. She killed him in self-defense.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Britannia Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Jarvis Wilder matter. Expense account item 1, $150.50, airfare and incidentals between Hartford and Farmington, New Mexico. It was shortly after noon when I reached the drowsing western town. I checked into a hotel and read in the local paper that the county grand jury at any moment was expected to indict the widow, Mrs. Alma Wilder, for the murder of her husband. I contacted her lawyer by phone and a few minutes later walked into his office.
Well, Mr. Dollar, you've had quite a trip.
How are you, Mr. Kendall? Yeah, it's a lot of miles from Hartford. Not too many hours these days.
Let's sit down.
Thank you. Well, I read the papers. The indictment comes any minute, huh?
Yes, it didn't take long. From arrest to conviction with as little cost to the taxpayer as possible. That's the way they like it. Not that there's anything wrong with the way things have been handled, you understand.
I haven't gotten too many details.
Alma, Mrs. Wilder, confessed when she was arrested, confessed again at the inquest. That was only yesterday, also only a formality.
Why the indictment, then? Why doesn't she plead guilty and get it over with?
Because I won't let her. I want a trial. Because I'm going to get a not guilty verdict for her on the grounds of self-defense and temporary insanity.
Those grounds have sprung a lot of widows, I guess.
Do you object to that?
No, not at all. I hoped you'd tell me she's innocent. A lot of money tied up in the policies for Jarvis's brother and his estate. None is due her.
I wish I could help you on that. Were you planning on going out to the ranch?
Yeah, I thought I might. Why?
I wanted to warn you about what kind of people they are.
What kind are they?
They've been the most hated people in this part of the state for 2 generations. Russell is a twin brother, you know, and he has not only the appearance of Jarvis, but every single bad quality: selfishness, cruelty, conceit.
Russell has a wife, too, hasn't he?
Yes, Rosemary. And if she shoots him, I won't be surprised. But I'd advise you to be careful if you're going out there. Don't push too hard. They like to run people off their property.
I'll watch it, thanks.
Yeah. Just what do you expect to accomplish, Mr. Dollar?
I've got to make a report, that's all. Murder, it's routine. If you still have any idea I'm working with the prosecution to set up a motive for your client and turn it into a first-degree charge, forget it. I'm not.
Well, they've been awfully quiet, and I've been practicing law long enough to develop a suspicious mind. It was nice to meet you.
Thanks a lot for the help, Mr. Kendall. I'll probably see you again before I leave. The Wilder Ranch was about 15 miles out of town. By report, some 5,000 acres and cattle range. I wheeled a rented car up a road that led to a large house resting on a knoll among a few pine trees. There were some outbuildings, and finally a grizzled character who got up from a bench to stop me as I neared the house.
You got business here?
That's right.
Well, you'll have to wait. Ain't nobody at home. What kind of business?
Nothing to do with ranching. My name is Dollar. I'm here from the east to get a report on the shooting of Jarvis Wilder.
What's that?
I said I'm from the east.
What's your interest in the trouble?
And I've been hired by an insurance company to get a report on it.
Where'd you say you was from?
The East, Hartford, Connecticut.
My folks come from thereabouts. Come west in the 80s. You heard of the Shrams back there?
No, I don't think so.
My daddy had 6 brothers, so some of their kin is still around. Hazardville is where we sprung from. You heard of that?
Yeah, it's in the northern part of the state, isn't it?
On the Scandic River. It's marked on the map.
Yeah, I know the place. Mr. Schramm, I take it you work here on the ranch?
For more than 40 years. Worked for the old man before Jarvis and Russell was born.
Where were you the other night when Jarvis was shot?
I got a cabin to myself. That's it over there. That's where I was.
Could you tell me what happened as far as you're concerned?
As far as I'm concerned, sit down.
Sure.
I'm an old man. I lived through some right troublesome time. Seen a lot of men get killed. And I always sort of figured I stayed healthy because I never meddled with nobody's business, right or wrong.
I'm not sure I know what you're driving at. Are you advising me to stop meddling?
It ain't my place to advise you, young fella. Besides, I ain't smart enough. You ask me as far as I'm concerned. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what happened.
I still don't get you. Are you telling me that other people don't know what happened?
It ain't my place to tell you anything.
I didn't come here to investigate the murder. All that's been done, and it's in the hands of the authorities. Jarvis's wife confessed.
Well, you can wait here for Russell and his wife. I got chores.
Now, wait a minute. That was it, wasn't it? You thought something had been uncovered and that I'd come to look into it. Isn't that it, Schramm?
It don't concern me.
Yes, it does. Is there a possibility that Alma Wilder did not kill her husband?
She confessed, didn't she?
That's not what I asked.
She said she killed him, and I reckon she knows better than anybody else, don't you? I ain't got time to talk no more. I ain't got chores to do.
All right, Schramm, I can't hold you, but I'll have to go to the police with this.
Now, don't go stirring up a lot of trouble, young fella. Don't stir it up. If you do, I got a feeling you're going to be sorry.
If it's there to be stirred up, I'll have to do it. And I guess it's there, all right. But I can make a deal with you, Schramm.
What deal?
You talk to me, and I won't go to the police. As an insurance investigator, I'm in a position to make a deal like that legally.
All right, young fella. You want to grab it by the tail, you can. It ain't much for certain, what I saw. I heard Jarvis yelling at her. That's what woke me up. When I heard the shot, I jumped for the door. It was light enough to see, and they was both laying on the ground.
They'd come out of the house.
Yes. And it come over me when I saw him that she didn't shoot him because she was laying on her belly with her feet toward him, like as if that's where he'd knocked her.
Well, that wouldn't mean much, would it?
I told you it wasn't much for certain. But when I got to where she was, she didn't have no gun. It was on the ground next to Jarvis.
Where was everybody else?
They come out of the house, Russell and his wife, and I got out of sight. It stayed in my mind that Alma didn't kill him, till she said she did.
Is that all, Schramm? You telling me everything?
That's the whole of it. The way she was laying and where the gun was. I got there fast, and it come to me that she didn't shoot him. What are you figuring on doing?
Not sure. I'll see what I can make out of it. Thanks for telling me. I'm going back to town. You can count on my confidence, but if anything develops, I may have to talk to you again.
You ain't going to stay till Russell and his wife come back?
After talking to you, I think I'd better get to them later. And if you don't feel like it, you don't even have to tell them I was here.
I won't. It ain't my business that you come, and it ain't their business that I talk to you.
It was little enough to go on, certainly. Back in town, I approached the authorities on the basis of wanting a routine report. The investigation was no more thorough than could be expected. A confession, naturally, would do away with the usual need for examination. There were photographs to record the position of the body, etc. Results of ballistic comparison tests to establish the fatal weapon, a .30-30 rifle. That was about all. The autopsy report hadn't as yet been added. I debated on where to go from there and decided against Kendall, the defense lawyer. I got permission to visit the cell of the confessed murderess. Alma Wilder was a slight, well-formed brunette of 24. She looked older than her years, but she would have been quite beautiful under different circumstances.
I don't understand why you've come to see me, Mr. Dollar. I told them all how it happened. Didn't you talk to them?
Yes,
And why have you come to see me?
I read your confession. I guess I was curious about what kind of a woman could make such a calm statement about killing her husband.
It was done and finished. There was no other way to say it.
I'm curious about what kind of woman could be driven to the point where she'd do such a thing.
If you read it, you know. It wasn't the kind of a woman I was. The kind of a woman he made out of me.
In your confession, you said he'd been cruel to you. What kind of cruelty did you mean?
I won't talk about it.
Physical cruelty?
Yes. I won't talk about it. Why do you want me?
I'd hope maybe you'd want to talk to somebody that might help you.
I told all the truth. I'm going to. I won't tell anybody about my life with him. I went through it. And now it's finished. I won't talk about it.
All right.
The time I've been here alone. The time since I killed him, I've been happier than I have for 3 years. It's the kind of a woman I am now. I'm happy now.
I hadn't noticed. But I really wasn't after that part of the truth. You hated your husband, and that's enough. What about the twin brother? Do you hate him?
You think it's that me?
Do you?
Yes, I hate him. I hate him the same way I hated Jarvis.
What about the sister-in-law?
Never thought much of anything about Rosemary. Except when he brought me to that house, she seemed like some dead person. I should have known then what it was going to be like.
Wasn't there anybody you liked out there, or who liked you?
Why?
Any of the men who worked there?
I never saw him. We weren't allowed in the house, and I wasn't allowed outside alone. Why?
I'm asking these things because I don't know if this confession you made will stick.
What?
Alma, right now only you know whether or not you really killed your husband.
Yes, I did.
If somebody knew you and felt sorry for how unhappy you were, he might have killed him.
There wasn't anybody.
If somebody thought enough of you to do that, you could be thanking him with your confession. It would be a noble gesture, I suppose, but if that is the case, it's going to come out.
It wasn't.
You could save everybody a lot of trouble if you'd tell me about it.
It wasn't that. Nobody would do that to me. I didn't know anybody. I killed him because I hated him, and I was trying to run away, and he was trying to stop me. Don't do any more.
More what?
Any more looking for things.
Why not, Alma?
Because you don't have to. Please. I killed Jarvis. Nobody else did. Nobody had to. Because I killed him. He was trying to run away, and he wouldn't let me. He was going to take me back to that house. I couldn't go back. Please. Please let me stay here alone.
You better sit down, Alma. I won't bother you anymore.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. There's one married couple you can always depend on for fun on Saturday evenings, and to invite them over is as easy as staying tuned to CBS. They're Lucille Ball and that man she calls my favorite husband. You don't have to get involved in the strange predicaments they do. All you have to do is sit back and laugh at the results. How's for asking them in this evening? Lucille Ball and my favorite husband will be waiting on most of these same CBS stations. Now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yes, come in. Yeah, well, Mr. Dollar.
Hi, Mr. Kendall. I didn't know whether you'd be in your office or not.
5 o'clock? Oh, yes. I sometimes stay in the office until 8 or so. I'm a single man. No place to do any homework. Sit down.
Thanks.
Well, I see you escaped the Wilder Ranch without loss of life or limb.
Yeah, I made it all right. Nobody was there.
Perhaps you were lucky. Did you talk to Crutchfield?
Who?
Crutchfield, prosecutor.
Oh, I didn't even know who he was. No, I haven't seen him.
Would you like a whiskey?
Yeah, thanks. I think I could stand one.
Good.
Well, I went to see Alma Wilder.
Oh?
What's the matter with her?
Well, just what do you mean? Oh, will you take this neat?
Yeah, that'll be fine. I mean, how could any woman live like a prisoner with a man she hated for 3 years, wasn't it?
3 years.
This is the 20th century, and nobody has to put up with anything like that. Why didn't she leave if it was that tough?
There you are.
Thanks.
I believe she did try to leave one other time, and evidently was discouraged from trying again. At least that's what she told me.
What?
That she was beaten.
It's hard to believe.
I know it is. So was the case that broke in the papers last year of the man who'd been locked in a room for 14 years, remember?
Yeah, that's right. Well?
Shall we toast the human race, Mr. Dollar?
Let's not bother. Mr. Kendall, did you ever give a thought to the possibility that Alma Wilder could be innocent?
What?
I mean actually innocent. That somebody else could have killed her husband.
Mr. Dollar, if you've come into any information pertinent to this case, I want to know about it.
Well, it's not quite information yet, but maybe it will be.
What was its source?
I can't tell you that now.
Why not?
Came to me in confidence. I've got to keep it that way. But I faced Alma with it. The way she reacted makes me think that there's something to it.
What'd you say to her?
I asked her if somebody we don't know about got rid of her husband for her.
How'd she answer?
Naturally, she said no. And I don't believe it.
Has anything you've learned pointed to the identity of this person?
No.
Well, until we can be more specific, this is worthless as testimony.
Yeah, I know that.
I'd give anything to produce a witness that would blast Crutchfield's case from here to the state capitol. Yeah, but it's too much to hope for.
From here? Who knows?
But her confession, a signed statement, a matter of record. Obviously, you're going to follow it up.
Oh, sure. I'll have to now.
Would there be any way to keep the whole thing confidential? Without interfering with your work, of course.
I don't know. We'd have to see.
Of course. Well, it's too much to hope for. Won't start impaneling a jury until day after tomorrow at the earliest. If you're making any progress and need more time, let me know. I can delay that.
All right, I will.
You ought to be congratulated, Mr. Dollar. However you came about this possibility.
Case of plain fool luck, as a matter of fact.
No, don't say that. You put us in the back seat. A greenhorn. We Westerners don't like that, you know.
I turned in early, and the next morning I looked up the arresting officer in the Wilder case, the man who had supervised what little work had been done on it. As not only a greenhorn, but a Johnny-come-lately, I expected a lot less cooperation than I got.
Well, I'll be danged. I don't know what to make of that. She's a queer one, all right, but I never thought of nothing like that.
Maybe there isn't a thing to it, but... Well, how did she act that night?
Well, she was kind of numb when I got out there, acted dazed. She didn't talk till the next morning. Russell, that's the brother, says he was an eyewitness. His wife didn't see nothing, and an old-timer that works out there says he didn't either.
I suppose it's pretty late to run a paraffin test on her, isn't it?
Well, we can try. I don't hold much by 'em myself when you're trying to prove somebody didn't fire a gun. When you want to know did they, then they're all right, I guess. We'll test her, though.
And the rifle?
Yeah, I'll send that back through again. Got her prints off of it, but we'll see what else.
I know this is a lot of trouble.
No, we need nothing. We don't get many like this, and to tell you the truth, I sort of enjoy trying to work out these things.
It was about 10:15 when I turned into the Wilder Ranch Road. Passing the outbuildings, I looked for but didn't see the old man Schramm who'd been there the day before.
You got business here, mister?
Yeah. Are you Russell Wilder?
I don't remember asking you to come. I don't do business with anybody I don't know. So I think you better get back in your car and drive on out.
I think you'll talk with me, Mr. Wilder.
What about?
The Britannia Life Insurance Company sent me out. A few things to take care of on your brother's policies.
You aren't the salesman we bought from?
No, I came out from Hartford, Connecticut.
Why'd you come all the way from there?
There's quite a bit of money involved. Company wants to be sure everything's in order.
Jarvis and I kept our own books. Everything's in order.
There seem to be a few loose ends to take care of.
Not that I know about.
I understand you saw your brother's wife kill him.
I saw it.
That's what you told the police. But it's not true.
Maybe I didn't hear you.
Sometimes it doesn't do any good to throw your weight around, no matter what kind of reputation you got for being rough. This is one of those times, Wilder. So take it easy.
Then you better get out of here. Get off my land.
You can put me off. It won't do you any good. Murder doesn't brush off that easy. And you're in this one up to your neck.
Say what you got to say.
I said it. You didn't see your brother get killed. You know it, and the police are working now to prove it.
I saw it.
What were you doing outside at 11 at night? Didn't the sound of the shot bring you out?
She killed him.
It's not the open and shut case you thought they had against her. Why did you lie about seeing her shoot him?
Didn't make any difference. I do things the way I think they ought to be done. You got no right to ask me questions.
I don't have to ask you anymore. I've found out all I want.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Let go of me, you big... What do you want?
She killed him. It was the same as if I saw her. They know she killed him.
No, they don't.
She said she did.
Now they want to find out why she said it. She's not the only one in the picture anymore. You're in it, too. You could have done it.
Kill my own brother?
Your reputation says you could have. You're mean, full of hate. Both of you seem to get a lot of satisfaction out of kicking your wives around. If that's what passed for love in your marriages, what can you expect people to think about the association between you and Jarvis?
You don't kill your brother.
Why not? For the insurance money and the ranch?
I'll kill you if you don't stop talking like that.
You know, Wilder, I think you would. I guess that tells me everything I wanted to know. How are you, Alma?
I'm all right.
Just been out to the ranch.
I'll never see it again.
And I finally met your brother-in-law.
Or him again.
How did you happen to marry Jarvis?
Because my friends were all married. I wanted to be. I was dumb enough to believe his promises. He could be different when he wanted to be. A long time ago, anyway.
The rifle you shot him with, was it his?
Yes?
But you knew where he kept it, huh?
Yes, in the bedroom.
He kept it loaded?
Yes.
And you took it when you tried to sneak out of the house?
Yes. I had my mind made up to kill him this time if he tried to stop me.
He was asleep, and you got up.
And got dressed. Shirt, and Levi's, and some shoes.
He didn't wake up while you were dressing? What if he had? Were you near the rifle?
Yes.
Was there a cartridge in the chamber?
I don't know very much about them. I think so.
You ever shot the rifle before?
One like it, a long time ago.
How did you cock the rifle? With the lever or with the hammer?
What?
When you shot him, did you cock the rifle with the hammer or the lever?
I'm not sure now. What difference does it make?
A lot of difference. You'd cock it one way if a cartridge was in the chamber, and the other way if you had to bring one up from the magazine. You know that.
Yes.
Well, which way?
I don't remember, and it doesn't make any difference.
Yes, it does. One way would have left an ejected cartridge on the ground, and the police would have found it.
They didn't ask me these questions.
They didn't have any reason not to believe your confession.
It's true.
Did Russell see you kill your husband?
Yes.
Did he tell the police he saw you?
Yes, he said she killed my brother. I'm a witness. I saw her. He said that.
He was lying, wasn't he?
No, he saw me.
He told me he was lying.
No, he didn't. He saw me. Stop
He
it.
didn't see you. He didn't see you because you didn't kill him.
I did.
Did Russell kill him? Did he? He could have. Come on, tell me the truth, Alma.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it.
Tell me the truth.
Mr. Dollar.
Huh? What is it?
Officer Dandy sent word he wants you to come over.
Can't it wait?
He says it's mighty important and you better come.
All right. It wouldn't have to be so rough, you know, Alma. What was it, do you know?
I'm not certain. Something about the rifle they was working on.
I think we did her, Dollar. I think we did her.
I hope so.
Here, look, right here. Now, this is the murder weapon. Been bothered a lot, but look at that butt plate.
Dirt, huh?
Yeah, jammed into the ribbing on the plate and into the indentations for the screw heads.
More on the one side.
We got that covered, too. Now, you told me how she was lying with her feet towards the deceased.
Yeah?
Well, that figures in, too. And I called back the coroner about some marks they found in Jarvis's arm. Teeth marks. Here, you see?
Yeah. You've done a lot of work, Dandy.
And next time, I won't wait. Anyhow, we didn't have a Marlin rifle like the murder gun, but it didn't make no difference. We took one of our Winchesters out on some dirt. We sort of guessed at the angle to get more dirt onto one half of the plate than the other, like that Marlin has in it.
That's it, Dandy. You've got it.
Yeah, we jammed the stock on the ground and pulled the trigger. The recoil pushed the butt plate into the ground, and we got dirt in it about the same as the Marlin.
That's good work. Say, could we phone Mitchell Kendall? I promised him he'd be in on this. Officer Dandy and I waited 20 minutes for Kendall outside Alma Wilder's cell, and we went in without him. It took her a while to realize how much we knew now about what had happened.
Why do you want to keep on saying that, Miss Wilder? It ain't true. It can't be.
You didn't know anything about that rifle. You didn't have it when you left the house. Jarvis had it when he came out after you, didn't he?
I'm scared. I don't know what happened.
We can tell you. He tried to stop you outside with a rifle. It was cocked.
I don't know.
We do, Alma. He tried to stop you and you bit him. He threw you with one arm and the rifle fell from the other. It went off when it hit the ground.
Everything fits in. You were lying in such a way you couldn't have shot him and got there.
Nothing you can say now will change it. We know what happened. It's true, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it's true.
Why didn't you tell us?
You made a false confession and stuck with it. What made you do that? What were you afraid of? Were you afraid of Russell?
I was afraid I'd have to go back to that house.
You mean it's better to go to prison?
Yes, I wouldn't have died for it, would I? But I will now.
Why should you, Alma? What do you mean?
He said I would. Russell said I would. He said, you killed my brother. I'm a witness. I am a witness before the law. And if they don't kill you, I swear, no matter where you go, I will. And they will. That's the kind of men they are. When they say it, they can do anything. Oh, please. Please, you've got to let me stay here. Alone.
Expense account item 2, miscellaneous, $185. Item 3, same as item 1, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account total, $540. Remarks? No pleasant ones. The girl who'd reached the point where prison seemed better than what we call freedom is giving up both for a hospital where they hope she'll improve. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's latest picture is the Paramount Picture production, The Redhead and the Cowboy. Featured in tonight's cast were Parley Bear, Tim Graham, Bill Conrad, Herb Butterfield, and Mary Lansing. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There have been some changes made, and it's faster, it's funnier, it's got new life and a brand new punch because Jan Murray's taken over. What show is this? Why, CBS Saturday Night Musical Quiz, Sing It Again. That hour of melody, mirth, and money that's heard on most of these same CBS stations. Yes, Jan Murray is your new host. Be sure to hear the new Sing It Again with Jan Murray this evening on CBS. Stay tuned now for Bon Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where you laugh at Jack Benny every Sunday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Is this Mr. Dollar, the insurance gentleman?
That's right.
Well, this is Captain Lyle Woodstock. I was given a message that you had telephoned.
Yes, I did. Your insurance company wanted me to look into this trouble with your wife. I wonder when I could see you.
At your convenience, but it's not trouble yet. It's quite possible that nothing is wrong at all.
Oh? I understood you were worried about her disappearance, that you hadn't heard from her in over a week. Isn't that it?
Yes, but, well, I'll explain it all to you. But as I said, in spite of her absence, it's entirely possible that nothing is wrong at all.
All right, Captain Woodstock. I'll be out to talk with you this afternoon.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Washingtonian Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Celia Woodstock matter. Expense account item 1, $25.50, car rental and mileage to the Woodstock home off the highway just east of Bridgeport. It was a large frame house, shuttered against the cold. Icy landscaping swept down to the shore, where an empty dock stood against the winter wind blowing across Long Island Sound. Captain Lyle Woodstock, please.
Yes, you are Mr. Dollar?
That's right.
Come inside.
Thanks.
I am Captain Woodstock. Nice of you to come out. Nasty wind, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't blowing like this in Hartford.
Quite often windy here in the Sound. I'm afraid you'll have to leave your coat here.
That's fine.
I discharged the servants, all of them. Couldn't stomach their attitudes since Celia's departure. Come along. We'll talk in the library.
How did you happen to turn to your insurance company, Mr. Woodstock?
Yes, it would seem unusual, wouldn't it?
It seems unusual that they would bother with it, unless they thought she'd met with bodily harm. But you told me you don't think so.
Yeah, after you, Mr. Dollar.
Thanks.
I'm afraid I was guilty of a certain amount of deception when I spoke to Mr.
At the Washingtonian Company? Miller, Sam Miller.
Yes, Mr. Miller. Through a delicate choice of words, I'm afraid I intimated that I was frightened for Celia's very life. Sit down.
Why the deception?
Well, naturally, to interest them in the situation and with a purpose, Mr. Dollar.
Couldn't you afford to hire a private detective?
My good man, I've wasted a considerable amount of money doing just that. It was from the stumbling idiot that I received the news of Celia's disappearance.
He was following her?
He had been for a month, until he lost her. I'd entertained certain suspicions about Celia.
What's this investigator's name?
Slater. Mr. David Slater. He was recommended as the best in Bridgeport. Considering his dismal failure, you surely understand why I felt it necessary to turn to someone else. My insurance company struck me as a wise choice, since there's a large policy on her life.
All right. I'll talk to this later. Now, will you give me everything you can on your wife? Description, so on?
Yes, they're on the table. I brought out a few photos.
Brunette.
Yeah.
How old?
27. That one was snapped on Doctor's Cave Beach on Jamaica. Striking woman, isn't she?
Yeah.
This one was taken while we were anchored off Hilo last summer.
You get around.
Travel has its advantages, Mr. Dollar.
Your boat?
Yes, 64-foot schooner in dry dock at the moment. As a matter of fact, I met Celia because on an impulse, I put into Pia del Cuesta instead of Acapulco. And it seemed that she, too, wanted to travel.
Where do you think she's traveling now?
I haven't the faintest idea. I started to tell you I'd been troubled by a certain suspicion. She was in seeing entirely too much of a young doctor in Bridgeport. His name is Masterson, Dr. Charles Masterson.
You think he could have had something to do with her disappearance? Is that what you mean?
No, I shouldn't like to say. I believe that she is a quite perfect physical specimen, yet she visited this doctor fellow at least 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
As a matter of fact, yes. We were in Acapulco 2 years ago. I acted off
The rest of the story wasn't too far from typical, although I don't meet too many of the breed. A, the 55-year-old Woodstock, captain because he owned and gave orders on the schooner, had dedicated his life to what he called adventure. And B, the 27-year-old Celia had also dedicated her life to what she called adventure. The results were a number of voyages, and finally, Celia Woodstock's disappearance. Except for the doctor, I didn't learn what had gone on between. I found the private investigator, David Slater, in a conservatively crummy suite of offices on Front Street in Bridgeport.
Well, you've met him, so you know what type he is. Yes, I followed his wife.
What did she do?
I've got a report on every move she made for a month. You want to see it?
No, not if you remember the highlights. What about this Dr. Charles Masterson?
Doctors are hard to pin down, you know that. She went to his office 3 times a week, but never met him anyplace else. Maybe she was sick.
Her husband says no.
Well, I didn't find out. I couldn't have talked to the doctor without letting out who I was. He had a nurse who quit the day before I left the case.
You didn't talk to her?
I was going to, but after I left, I didn't. Why should I?
Do you know who she is, where I can find her?
Yeah. Her name is Janet Squire. She went to work in a Red Cross blood collection center up on Union.
Good, thanks. Now, what about the day she dropped out of sight? Was there anything special?
Sure, there was something special, or I wouldn't have lost her. I'm no rookie in this business. She bought a ticket to New York City on the 345. So did I. I got in the same car she did. I didn't see her, but I figured she was powdering her nose or something. Then when she didn't show before the train left, I went through the rest of the cars. But I never picked her up after that.
She knew you were tailing her, huh?
She must have. Must have got on the car and then right off. That and the money she drew out of the bank makes me think she was running out on old Woodstock and nothing else.
No money was mentioned to me.
That's funny. Woodstock knew about it. $2,000 the morning she left.
I wonder what else the old renegade is holding out on me.
The phone call she made?
No, he didn't say anything about any phone calls?
Well, she made quite a few from public booths. I finally got into one next to her. I couldn't get the number, but she talked to somebody named Sprague. Didn't say much but the name, and then asked, "Where do you want me to meet you?" When she was answered, she said, "All right, I'll let you know when everything is arranged." And that's all.
Well, that's enough for me. If he thinks he's got a free wife chaser in me, he's mistaken.
You going to drop it?
Sure, if that's the way it is. I gave up that kind of work a long time ago. I don't like it.
Come in.
It's Dollar
Close the door.
What's this? Where's Woodstock?
Close the door. You do anything else, I'll kill you.
What's happened? Who are you?
Stay away from me.
I smell cordite. You fired a gun. Where's Woodstock?
He's gone. You come this way now. Move down the hallway.
Why?
I'll kill you if you don't. Came in here. Now you've got to do what I tell you or I'll kill you. I'll have to. Come on. You better turn around and look at me. Walk backwards.
You don't even know who I am. You're in trouble. Maybe I can help you.
Never mind that. Hop now. Turn around again. Open the door and get in the closet.
Now, wait a minute.
Please, mister. Please do what I tell you. Won't make any difference if I kill you. Maybe I'd have more of a chance if I did. But I won't if you don't make me.
Okay.
Now, close the door.
I heard him open and close some nearby doors, and shortly after that, the front door closed. Then I started kicking my way out. The paneling was heavy, and it caused a torn trouser leg and a scraped shin before I made it. Mrs. Woodstock? Mrs. Woodstock? Hello? Hello, operator. He'd given himself some more time by pulling out the phone wires, but it took less than 5 minutes for me to cover some 200 yards to the nearest neighbor, explain myself, and get through to the Bridgeport police. A short time after that, I met Homicide Lieutenant Al Jester, and with him watched 2 ambulance attendants start Mrs. Woodstock toward the hospital.
What's the condition, boys? Can you tell?
It's bad, Lieutenant. Her right lung.
No chance of a statement?
We'll do what we can, Lieutenant.
Well, I guess it depends on her, how hard or easy this thing is going to be.
Yeah, but better not count on him. I've been disappointed too often. What else did Slater tell you?
Well, that's about all. She'd drawn $2,000 the day he lost her on the train. He said he'd heard her talking on the phone to somebody named Sprague about where to meet him and about some arrangements of some kind. Now, what about Slater? Is he clean?
Well, if he isn't, he's careful and he stays out of trouble. I guess the worst thing I can say about him is that he does a lot of divorce snooping. Why?
I just wondered. I had no reason not to believe his story. He said as far as he was concerned, the girl was running out on her husband. The more I saw of it, the more it looked that way to me, too. And I came out here to drop the case, and it blew up in my face.
The man he described, could he have been the Sprague?
Well, he could have. I didn't ask him. He was half crazy. If he was Sprague and I'd thrown the name at him, I'm afraid he'd have killed me. He was that bad.
Can you describe the gun?
Yeah. Cheap revolver, nickel-plated, short barrel, 32 caliber.
You sure of that?
Well, I guess a smart lawyer could keep me from swearing it was a 32, but it was.
I'll take that.
I got only one definite thing out of him. He said Woodstock was gone. That's all he'd say. Then he put me in the closet. I didn't hear him drive away. I was kicking up some noise getting through that door. But the people in the house where I phoned said they saw it leave. The next house that way.
Oh, Sergeant. Yeah, Lieutenant? Next house towards town. People saw a car leave. Send a man over and get what you can on it, will you?
Yeah, all right.
They said they didn't hear any shooting.
You didn't see a car when you got here?
No, it must have been parked on the other side of the house.
Then I'll get it roped off.
Yeah.
Snow ought to hold some good prints off the tires. Did I get the amount of the insurance on the victim right? $100,000?
Lieutenant Jester.
Yeah?
You better go upstairs. They were shooting up there, too.
Oh, where?
In the hallway, toward the back. Jared says there's a man lying sort of half into a room, but there's no question about it. This one, he's dead.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. Have you heard the new Sing It Again, the new comedy with Jan Murray as your host on the Coast to Coast phone? The new cash prizes for cracking the mystery of Sing It Again Phantom Voice. The new speed and color of the tuneful little riddle songs that make Sing It Again a Saturday night must for radio listening. Be listening for Sing It Again tonight on most of these same CBS stations. Now, with our star Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
A little gloomy, Lieutenant, but I don't want to handle any of the light switches. Right back there.
Oh, yeah. I see.
Woodstock. Let me see. Huh? So it is.
Get some light on in the room. The shutters are all closed. Push the switch with something that won't hurt Prince.
Yes, sir. Car key ought to do it.
Shot from behind.
Here's a gun on the floor, Lieutenant.
That guy told you Woodstock had gone, Dollar.
He couldn't have been more right, could he?
Oh, I guess not. Well, let's get out of here until the photographers show up.
Neither the photographers nor the fingerprint men, nor a thorough search of the house resulted in any progress. By the end of that first day, the description of the man I'd tangled with had been broadcast, along with a possible description of the car he was driving. The police had also put out a futile search on the single name Sprague. And Celia Woodstock hadn't died, but she hadn't regained consciousness either, or shown any signs of recovery. I took a hotel room in Bridgeport that night where I'd be called if and when anything happened. Nothing did. The next morning, I went to the Red Cross Blood Collection Center to talk with a nurse who had recently resigned the office of Celia Woodstock's friend and/or doctor. come in with my mind tossing motives for murder around, motives of personal greed and selfishness and hate. And it was almost a shock to suddenly face a segment of this country, citizens, old ones, young ones, men and women, quietly going about the business of helping the best way they knew how. I stayed to give my own blood after Janet Squire talked with me, and I knew it would go overseas in the best of company.
We can go in here, Mr. Dollar.
Thank you. I'm sorry to bother you, Miss Squire, but I was told that you were in Dr. Charles Masterson's office until a short time ago.
Yes, that's right.
Have you seen the morning papers?
No. Why do you ask?
Mrs. Lyle Woodstock was shot last evening.
Mrs. Woodstock? Why, she's one of Dr. Masterson's patients. Was she, seriously injured?
They don't know if she'll live. Her husband was killed at the same time.
How dreadful. What happened?
I don't know. I'm working with the police on it. I'd like to learn as much as I can about Mrs. Woodstock.
Well, I'm afraid I know very little. She was a patient, but other than that, I know nothing.
Her husband seemed to have the idea that she might be more than just a patient.
That there might have been romantic interest between them.
Uh-huh. Was there?
Well, not that I know of. I make it a point to do very little prying into other people's affairs, Mr. Dollar.
Sometimes I wish I could. Do you know anything about anyone named Sprague?
Sprague? No, I'm afraid I don't. I'm sorry.
So am I. I hope the results are better when you start working on me.
I am sorry, Mr. Dollar. If you'll step right through there, Miss File will take care of you.
A telephone check with Lieutenant Jester about an hour later added nothing. He'd been in communication with Mexican authorities, but they were unable to come up with any leads on Celia Woodstock, or even proof that she'd been in the Acapulco vicinity 2 years ago when Woodstock had told me he'd married her. Homicide men were searching the captain's schooner, and they were still working on the name Sprague. I played my last card and went to see Dr. Masterson.
I read about it. Tragic. But, Mr. Dollar, I'm sure you realize why my name mustn't be dragged into it.
It won't be if it doesn't belong there, Doctor.
Why, there was absolutely no basis for his suspicions. Whatever made him say anything like that?
He had a detective following her. He had an idea she came to your office too often.
Then why didn't he talk to her?
He did. He said something about a sinus condition and heat treatments.
That's precisely the truth. I resent your attitude, Mr. Dollar.
That puts us on a par. Your attitude doesn't set so well with me. Keeping your name out of this case isn't as important as clearing it up, no matter what you think.
But I know nothing about it.
You must have talked to the woman. As often as she was here, you must have become fairly well acquainted.
No better acquainted than with most of my patients.
Well, I don't ask for any more. What did she talk about?
Why, the conversations were unimportant. She talked about her travels. They'd come here from Florida to have some work done on their yacht.
She talk about her husband?
Yes, occasionally. General things.
Like what?
I realized that he was much older than she was, but that she was quite satisfied with their marriage and their life together. That's what makes his suspicions of me so ridiculous. She was happy with him.
Never anything about unhappiness, about leaving him?
No, they were planning on a trip to South America in a few months.
Dr. Masterson, did she ever mention anyone named Sprague?
Sprague?
Yeah, Sprague.
This is one of the strangest things that's happened to me in a long time.
Why?
She went to pieces because of that name. Completely and helplessly to pieces. Just before she stopped coming for treatment.
What happened?
The last visit she made. The afternoon about a week ago. Someone telephoned and asked for a Mrs. Emil Sprague. My nurse and receptionist called in and asked if Mrs. Sprague could answer the phone.
Was the nurse Miss Squire?
No, she'd just left me. It was Miss Hall, who didn't know my patients by name. But when Mrs. Woodstock heard the name Sprague, she went into hysterics. I gave her a sedative. When she was calmed, I wanted to ask her about what had happened. But, well, I didn't. There was something about her that begged me not to. I decided to wait until she came back. But she never did.
Well, it's Emil Sprague now.
I'm sorry I was hesitant, Mr. Dollar.
Well, it's in the works now. We'll see what we can make out of it. How's Mrs. Woodstock?
Still alive. Chest wounds are bad, though.
Well, here's how the shooting stacks up so far. She was wounded by 38 caliber slugs. Her husband was killed by 32s. So if you were right on your gun description, the man you ran into killed the husband.
What does that leave? Woodstock killing his wife?
He was shot from behind while he was going into the upstairs room, apparently chased up there. He had a gun in his hand, and he dropped when he was hit. That was the gun we found on the floor. 38 caliber.
Ballistics hasn't run any comparison tests yet?
No.
I won't buy the theory. Mr. and Mrs. Woodstock seem to have been pretty happy. What about their schooner?
Well, I talked to my men on the phone. Nothing yet. Crewmen are all available and with alibis. But what's all that got to do with somebody named Mrs. Emil Sprague?
I couldn't answer him. Nobody could. But close to 12 that night, the lieutenant phoned me that Mrs. Woodstock was finally responding to treatment and would likely live. I was at the hospital at 12:30, but it wasn't until almost 3 that Lieutenant Jester and I were told that she was conscious and able to answer some questions.
Good morning, Miss Woodstock. Feeling better? My name is Lieutenant Jester. This is Mr. Dollar.
Hello, Mrs. Woodstock.
We're both interested in what happened at your house the other evening.
Mrs. Woodstock, do you understand what we're saying to you? Do you understand?
My husband, Lyle. They told me he was all right. Is he?
Yes, Mrs. Woodstock.
He was shot. They tell you that?
Yes.
You know who did it?
Yes, I know. I was there. I remember.
We wish you'd tell us, Mrs. Woodstock.
Emil Sprague?
Yes. Yes, Emil. No one else was there. He made me go.
Made you go where?
To my house. To talk to my husband.
Emil Sprague made you go? Why?
How could he make you go?
Because I'm Mrs. Emil.
You're Mrs. Emil Sprague?
Yes. And I hate him.
But you were married to Mr. Woodstock.
I shouldn't have.
I think I understand. You were married to Sprague. Your marriage to him was never ended, but you married Woodstock anyway.
Yes. I was wrong. I lied. I didn't tell him. And then it was money. He wanted money.
Sprague did?
Yes. I didn't know where he was. Mexico. I had to get away. And I married my husband. That's all that matters.
I'm afraid it isn't.
Sprague followed you here.
From Florida. I begged him not to.
The $2,000 you drew from your bank?
I gave it to him.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't enough. He made me stay with him. And made me go with him for some more money. And my husband, I tried to make him understand, and he wouldn't. He blamed me and called me things. He went to the drawer. Oh, why didn't he shoot Emil instead of me?
Are you sure of that? Woodstock shot you?
Going to the drawer. I remember. Turning around with a gun. And that's all.
You know where Sprague would go?
What happened? Why did he? What does my husband say?
He hasn't said anything. Evidently, Sprague chased him upstairs, shot him there, and left. You know where he'd go?
Back to Florida.
No, we don't think so. We got a good description of him and the car he was driving. We think he's still in Bridgeport someplace.
You said you were with him. Where?
He had a room on Commercial Street. 713.
Rooming house?
No, it's a big building. Apartments.
Now, which one is Sprague?
It's, number 12 on the second floor.
Do you have a phone in the room?
Yes. Pleasant 2132.
Well, thank you. We won't bother you anymore.
Thank you, Mrs. Woodstock.
I want to help my husband. I'll do anything I can. I want him to know that.
Well, we'll tell him, Mrs. Woodstock. It's a little after 3. Rogers' trucks are going to be rolling on Commercial Street before long. Think Sprague will give us trouble?
Yeah? Yeah, if he's been holed up since the shooting, I think he's probably farther off as not than when I saw him.
We might slip on him this time in the morning. I'll get some men started out there. You better come with me.
Sure.
I'll need you to identify.
ready, Lieutenant. Men should be set in the back of the building.
All right, Sergeant. You'll go in with me. Donald and I took a look at the floor. It's that corner one up there. There's a door to another room right across from his, so we want to keep him from firing if we can. We didn't warn anybody because we want to keep it quiet.
Hope it stays that way.
All right, Sergeant. Let's go across. Good luck. Lieutenant, the window. He's onto it. We better go on across. He's onto it. He's been watching at the window. I saw him move. Oh, the devil. Well, you better see what you can do on the phone then, Dollar.
The phone?
We thought if you couldn't catch him off guard, we'd try and talk him out. There's a payphone in the hallway. His room's just to the right at the top of the stairs there.
That phone's right in line from up there.
And we'll cover him. Okay, Dollar, if you're ready. He won't answer.
It's ringing. I can hear it upstairs.
He'll do something with it. Hello? Hello, Sprague?
Yeah?
We just got a complete statement from Mrs. Woodstock. You blackmailed the works.
She's alive?
Yeah, and she's gonna make it.
I thought she was dead. I saw her fall. I killed him because I thought she was dead. If I'd known, I wouldn't have killed him. I should have found out.
You should have done a lot of things. What we want you to do right now is to give yourself up without any trouble. Every door in the building is covered by police. You won't get out if you try. We want you to come out of your room and down the stairs with your hands out where we can see them. You understand that? Are you listening to me? Come on, Sprague. Come on out and make
Stairs, look out.
Get down, Dollar.
Stay there, Sergeant. Be careful, Dollar.
It's all right. Sprague? Ah. He's dead, Lieutenant.
Sergeant. Yes, sir? I'll go phone in. Keep the people away as best you can.
Expense account item 2, $45 miscellaneous, hotel, meals, etc. Expense account total, $73.60. Remarks? I understand the lawyers for the Woodstock estate are already measuring ways and means to cut the bigamous wife out of the estate. I don't think the Washingtonian Company has a chance of doing the same with the insurance money. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's latest picture is a Paramount Picture production, The Redhead and the Cowboy. Featured in tonight's cast were Francis X. Bushman, Jim Nusser, Ted Osborne, Lorraine Tuttle, Bill Johnstone, Tudor Owen, and Ray Hartman. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There's a very charming, very amusing young couple to be found at CBS, the Star's address, every Saturday evening. And you're invited to stop by and call on them. They're Liz and George Cooper, and Liz is played by the lovely red-haired Hollywood comedian Lucille Ball. Liz is nice and easygoing. When trouble's ahead, Liz goes forward easily. It's wonderfully hilarious. It's My Favorite Husband, starring Lucille Ball, every Saturday evening on most of these same CBS stations. Stay tuned now for Von Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where you laugh at Jack Benny every Sunday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System. From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Dollar, my name is Ed Best. I'm in the investment department of the Financial Surety Company.
Oh, sure, I've worked for the company.
Yes, Bruce Hardwick told me about you. I have something I'd like to have you look into.
What is it?
Briefly, a few years ago, we bought controlling interest in the Stanley Springs Company, an organization in the Southwest that deals in cotton, and a couple of gins. I just got a letter from out there to the effect that behind the scenes, the company is carrying on illegal traffic across the Mexican border.
How close a check do you keep on the outfit?
Our accountant goes out for a quarterly examination, and he certainly reported nothing suspicious, but we businessmen aren't trained to handle smuggling organizations, if one does exist.
Yeah, well, training is very seldom enough, but I'll come down this afternoon and talk it over with you.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
And as his special guest this evening...
Yours truly, Olga San Juan.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office Financial Surety Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Stanley Springs matter. Expense account item 1, $1.75 cab fare from my apartment to Hartford's Insurance Row and the Financial Surety offices. Mr. Vest?
Come on in, Mr. Dollar. Happy to meet you. Bruce praised you quite highly.
Oh? I know Bruce well enough to suspect he was selling me so he wouldn't have to take the trip himself.
I doubt that. But be that as it may. Sit down.
Thank you.
Here's the letter I mentioned to you. Very brief.
Unsigned. He's not generous with details, is he?
No, nothing but a bald accusation. What did he call it? Illegal shipments?
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
I don't know. Stanley Springs Stationery. Must be an employee. Maybe a crank.
Yes, that had occurred to us.
You have no reason to think that what he says is true, is that right?
Good Lord, no. We'd had the faintest suspicions. We would have investigated them.
Don't you think it'd be a good idea to turn the matter over to the federal people?
After discussing it, we decided that it wouldn't be a good idea. At this time, there's not enough. Perhaps there's nothing behind the letter. We decided to carry out our own investigation first. And then, if there's basis, we'll turn to the federal agency.
That was about it from the Hartford end. My only instruction was to keep secret, if possible, my identity and the investigation. Expense account item 2, $135 transportation, first by air, then by train, then by bus to Stanley Springs. I arrived there late in the afternoon, and at first I couldn't see the true character of the town. It was dusty, set in a depression of the desert that's called Stanley Springs Valley. It was a company-built town, 2 dirty street saloons, a few cafes, and stores made up the center of town. The rest was a cluster of identical white dwellings. There was only one small hotel, and I checked into it under the curious glance of a dark-haired girl who knocked on the door a few minutes after I'd gotten to my room. Hello.
Hello. Are you busy?
I know, not at the moment.
Then could I come in?
Sure, I don't see why not. I'm not quite ready to receive visitors. I don't have anything to offer you but a cigarette.
I don't want anything. I only wanted to talk to you. My name is Anne, and I live here in the hotel. We don't see many strangers here in Stanley Springs.
Well, I'm that all right. Sit down.
Why are you here?
Taking a look at a lot of organizations like the Stanley Springs Company, I'm going to write an article for a textiles magazine.
You are from the East?
Yeah, New York. You?
I lived in Denver before I came here, and I have been in Fort Worth and Tucson and Phoenix. Why do you want to write about the company?
I'm being paid to by a lot of men who own controlling interest in a lot of companies, and they're too fat and wealthy to come out themselves to find out how they earn their money.
You don't like these men.
I can take them or leave them alone. What do you do?
I work in one of the clubs.
Clubs?
Isn't that a pretty fancy name for them?
I know. They don't look like much in the daytime. But at night, you'll see.
Mm-hmm. Does the company own these clubs?
I think they sold them. That was before I came here.
I take it I can drop my money on a crap table if I want to.
Yes, there are games in all of them. Oh, but you aren't interested in that. And I'm talking too much. Do you want me to go?
No, of course not. I'm glad you came.
Then so am I. It's good to have someone new to talk to.
She stayed about an hour, long enough for me to learn, among other things, that her name was Anne Saliva and that she sang. It seemed to me then that she, as well as I, was leaving things unsaid. And I wondered if her warm, friendly, and seemingly honest approach wouldn't be a good method of learning why any stranger dropped into Stanley Springs. I didn't do anything that first evening and night but recover from my long 15 hours of travel. The next morning, I started out on the only lead I had, the unsigned two-sentence note on company stationery. There were 3 men in the Stanley Springs office when I got there. One of them was Norman Stager, the manager.
Well, that's interesting, Mr. Dollar. What sections have you been through in your survey?
I came up through the southeastern states, then through Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, California, now here.
Quite an extensive trip.
They seem to think it's worth it.
You will find us about the same as the rest of the ginning concerns, except the ones that handle American upland cotton. They use saw gins. We use roller gins. You'll find nothing new here.
I won't bother you, Mr. Stager. I'd like to talk to your personnel, go through your warehouses. Could I meet the men here in the office?
Yes, you can meet them, but I'd rather you didn't talk to them until after we close tonight. We have a lot of work this week.
I'm sure. Anything you say.
Come on. Oh, Phillips.
Yes?
Meet Mr. Dollar. Came out from the east to look over our plant.
How do you do?
Mr. Phillips?
Phillips is our chief clerk. Mr. Dollar is going to write a magazine article.
Oh, I see.
I want you to help him with any information he wants, Phillips, but not until after hours.
All right.
Phillips is through at 5. You can meet him then.
Fine, I'll see you, Mr. Phillips.
Yes, at 5.
This is Childs over here. He's our shipping clerk. Mr. Dollar, Childs.
Hello, Mr. Childs.
Howdy. You gonna write us up, huh?
Well, I'll try not to get in the way.
Say, you've got a shipment going out this morning, haven't you, Childs?
Yeah.
Maybe Mr. Dollar can go out and watch the bales being loaded. That won't slow things down.
Oh, sure. I'm going out now.
Good. You can get an idea of the size of our shipments. We send one about like this every other week.
Like with the girl, there was nothing there in the office that I could put my finger on. Only things to wonder about. Like the quick look Phillips, the clerk, threw at me when I was introduced, and something about the tone Stager used with him. I went through the formalities of watching the loading operation and noting the number of bales, and then returned to Stager's office for my meeting with Phillips.
How are you making out?
All right, Mr. Stager. Phillips here?
No, he isn't. He was feeling sick this afternoon. Let him go home at about 2:30.
Oh? What's the matter with him?
I don't know. Something with his stomach. I think he worries too much.
Doesn't seem like he'd have very much to worry about in his job.
No, he wouldn't, but I guess it can be quite a strain if you let it. Now, me, I don't worry about anything.
Well, that's the way to be, all right. I'll find him at home then, I guess, or if he doesn't feel good, I can wait till tomorrow.
You'd better catch him. Maybe he's sicker than he thinks.
What do you mean?
Just what I said. Maybe he's in worse shape than he realizes.
I hope not. Why do you say that, Mr. Stager?
Well, it just seemed to me that he acted kind of funny when I introduced you to him this morning. Didn't you notice?
No, I guess I didn't.
I've had my doubts about him for quite a while. I think there's something wrong with him.
Like what?
Something about his past that he's hiding. I've even thought he may have had a criminal record. When he met you, it was almost like he was afraid you'd come out here after him.
It'd be easy enough to check if you wanted to. We could phone the state authorities.
Oh, not yet, Dollar. Let's wait till after you talk to him. Find out how he reacts. He lives in number 18. That's on 1st Street.
Okay, Stager, thanks. I'll go right over.
I would. Let me know how you find out.
I was almost positive then who'd written the note, and that there was something behind it. I banged on the door of number 18 for a reasonable length of time, and then forced my way in. Phillips wasn't there, and according to some unwashed dishes, hadn't been there since breakfast. I found only one thing that pointed someplace, a photograph of the girl, Ann Salava. I didn't find her at the hotel when I got back, so at 8 that night I walked into the club where she worked. She was singing as I entered.
Saber esperar y callar, para al cabo arrancar lo que siempre anhela el corazón. No te importe saber que mi boca besar una boca otra vez, pues no hay huellas que existen, recuerdos que no borres tú. Tu cariño me ha traído un algo, no sé qué, que no deja que mis ojos miren más que hacia ti.
Oh, Ann. Ann.
Johnny. Oh, I'm glad you came. You didn't last
I
night.
want to talk with you, Ann. Is there any place we can go?
What's the matter?
I want to talk to you about Irving Phillips.
Why?
I had an appointment with him at 5. I can't find him. Where can we talk?
I don't want to talk to you.
Why not?
Please leave me alone.
You know where Phillips is?
No,
Why don't you want to talk about him?
I don't know.
Because he wrote a letter?
I'll try to come to your room after I finish. Don't talk to me here. It will be about 4.
All right. I'll wait for you. You did come. I wondered if you would.
Who are you?
I think both of us would have been better off if there hadn't been any deception. You came to my room yesterday because you were expecting somebody to show up from the east. Isn't that right?
Who are you really, Johnny?
Well, who did Phillips write the letter to?
You were sent here by the owners of the company?
Yes, that's right.
The letter got there then. We didn't know if it had been mailed.
It got there.
They were following Irving, and he was sure they saw him give the letter to the man. They asked him about it, and he told them he hadn't.
He gave it to somebody else because he couldn't mail it himself?
They were following him.
And this stuff about traffic across the border is true, huh?
Yes.
Why did Phillips write the letter?
He wanted to leave Sandy Springs, but they wouldn't let him.
Because he knew about the smuggling.
Yes. He didn't have anything to do with it, and he didn't try to find out about it. But he learned about it, and they knew it. So they couldn't let him leave.
Yeah. How much do you know about it, Ann?
It's narcotics. A cotton grower right in the border brings it up.
Doesn't that put you on about the same spot as Phillips?
They won't let me leave. Irving wrote the letter because the only thing we could do was to tell somebody else about it. And now you know.
We'll do something about it.
What, Johnny?
I'm going to get word out. I'm going to call the nearest Treasury Department office.
Oh, no, Johnny. This is Stanley Springs. The company owns everything, and Steger has thought of everything. There's only one telephone in town. That's in the company office.
Well, then I'll have to use that one, I guess. You go back to your room. I'll get word out some way. It was pretty obvious that I wasn't going to get word out. It was 4:30 in the morning when I left the hotel, but 2 men were waiting for me in the street.
Hey, Dollar.
Huh? Oh, it's you, Giles.
Yeah. You up early or late?
I could ask the same thing of you.
You get a lot of information from Phillips for that article you're writing?
I think you know more about Phillips than I do.
Well, The way he acted when he met you, I thought he was afraid of you. I wondered if you'd seen him.
What are you driving at, Childs? I didn't see him. I went to his house. He wasn't there.
He wasn't? Well, that's funny. I saw him go in about 8:30 and 9 last night.
Maybe I ought to try again.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, you can't start too early in Stanley Springs.
Thanks for the tip. I'll go right over. I figured it for a cat and mouse game. They wanted me to find Phillips, and I did. Phillips was dead from a bullet wound in his temple. The .38 revolver was still held in his right hand. Except for one completely worthless bit of evidence, Irving Phillips' death was apparently a result of suicide.
We will return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. There have been some changes made, and it's faster, it's funnier, it's got new life and a brand new punch because Jan Murray's taken over. What show is this? Why, CBS's Saturday night musical quiz, Sing It Again. That hour of melody, mirth, and money that's heard on most of these same CBS stations. Yes, Jan Murray is your new host. Alan Dale, Judy Lynn, the Riddlers, and Ray Block are your music makers. And there are still loads and loads of cash for identifying the phantom voice. Be sure to hear the new Sing It Again, starring Jan Murray, tonight on CBS. Now, with our star Edmund O'Brien, we return you to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
A brief and faltering examination of the scene was made about an hour later by an aged deputy sheriff, Stanley Springs' only law enforcement officer. He didn't ask for a statement. I didn't offer one because I knew it would be useless. I watched the removal of Phillips' body, and then with Childs and the other man following me, I went back to the hotel. Johnny, I have to see you.
Oh, I was asleep. I didn't think I could sleep.
I don't know what he meant to you, but I don't have time to pull any punches. Phillips is dead.
I thought he would be.
Because they didn't want him to talk to me. Here's the key to my room. I want you to get out of this one. Stay in mine. Don't answer if anybody knocks. Don't say anything.
All right, Johnny. What about you?
I'll be all right. I'll get back to you as fast as I can. With the two men still tailing me, I found an early cafe and spent some time over coffee. I knew what their mission was, but to check it, I started toward the bus station at a little after 7:30. When I got within a block of it, they started to close in, and they were ready to jump me when I reached the point directly across the street from it. It looked like I was in Stanley Springs to stay. At 8:15, I walked into the company office again.
Ah, good morning, Dollar. I was hoping you'd come in. I wanted to talk to you.
About what?
Why, about Phillips, of course. I told you I wondered about his past. What's behind his suicide anyway, do you know?
I know it wasn't suicide, Steger, if that'll help you.
Well, of course it was. The gun was found in the man's hand, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he still smelled of chloroform when I saw him.
Chloroform? It wasn't mentioned to me.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it if I were you. I understand the traces disappear in a short time. But let's understand each other. You and I know that he was chloroformed, that when he was unconscious, a gun was put in his hand, that it was pointed at his head, and somebody helped him pull the trigger.
You saw this happen?
It happened. But the tests will prove that his hand fired the gun. You and probably a couple of your men know he was murdered, and I know it. As far as proof goes, you're safe.
For a textile writer, you seem to know quite a bit about these things.
I think we understand each other now, Steger.
I hope you do.
I know you've been sitting on a good thing probably for a long time. The whole town has been a front for you. You control everything. But trying to control me is a different proposition.
I guess I didn't realize that.
Your men have made it clear that they won't let me leave town.
Things will change.
You're right, they will. The people who sent me out here suspect you're dealing in contraband. What do you think they'll do? Forget it if they don't hear from me according to plan?
You can worry about that, Dollar. I'm not going to. I don't know what you're talking about. You made a lot of empty accusations. The only reason I can think of is that you're a stupid, stumbling bum.
Well, if it's that way, I guess you won't mind my using your phone.
Get away from it. Child! Put it down. Stop him, child! Move, Clancy!
Put it down, Dollar.
Yeah, behind him, Clancy.
Now, let me have him. Hey, come on, get up, Dollar.
Get away.
Come on, get up.
Let go.
Yeah, sure, I'll let go.
That's enough, child.
Empty accusations, Steger?
The company rule. Nobody uses that phone but employees. Now, get out of here and get yourself cleaned up.
Conceit of the man that's worst of all, Anne. He's been toying with me ever since I got here, leading me around, showing me the murder he committed because he knows he'll get away with it.
Oh, please sit down, Johnny, so I can put something on your face.
I know what he's doing, and I can't stop him.
I think this will hurt. Is it very bad?
Sorry. He's going to hold me here until he gets rid of the narcotics evidence. Then there won't be a thing I can prove against him.
Oh, wait, Johnny. Your forehead.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does it hurt?
Yeah, that one does.
There's only this one more. There. You aren't very pretty now, Johnny.
Come here.
Yes.
How can you be so calm about this? Aren't you afraid of them?
I've been afraid of a lot of things.
What things?
I don't want to talk about them, Johnny. I've made my life the way it is. I didn't have to come to Stanley Springs.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
Why do you want to know about me?
It's been less than 24 hours, but it seems like I've known you for a long time.
I know.
I guess meeting like this in trouble does that sort of thing to people.
I have heard that life goes very fast when there is danger. Oh, you haven't slept, and you should. Do you want me to go?
No. I don't want you to go, not for a while.
All right, Johnny.
I've been trying to think what this day would have been without you.
If I've helped you, I'm glad.
Only a few times in my life when I've been driven to the point where I could kill a man. I reached it today when Steger and his men kicked me out of that office. I think if you hadn't been here, I would have gone back to it.
Oh, I think it would be better if you forgot all about that.
Forgot it? I'm afraid that's a luxury that's not allowed me. I'm not paid to forget.
Even for a little while? I'll only stay for a little while. You haven't slept and you should. But tell me about yourself. Where you live. I've wondered so many things about you.
That was the last time I saw Anne Salivar. She stayed an hour, maybe less. When she'd gone, I slept. There hadn't been any secrets left between Norman Steger and me after our last meeting. I told him what I knew, and he told me how he felt. Because of that, I thought Anne Salivar was no longer in danger as a giver of information. That's why I let her leave. But after I'd rested, I went to her room, and she wasn't there. The desk clerk told me that she left with 2 men, and his description came close enough to fitting Childs and the other man who'd been following me. This time, when I started for the Stanley Springs office, I was carrying an automatic.
Well, Mr. Dollar, I thought you'd had enough out of this office.
That's just why I came back. Where is she?
Who?
Look, the time for tossing words around is gone, Childs. Where is she?
You know that gun don't make you mayor of this town. If you use it, you'll be cut down before you can move 100 yards.
I won't have to use it if you tell me where she is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Where's Steger?
He's out.
Where?
I don't know.
Where, Childs?
I don't know.
You took her out of the hotel. The clerk told me that. Where'd you take her? What did you do with her?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Understand this, Childs. I'll kill you if I have to. Now, where is she?
I don't know.
Where is Steger?
He's out in the warehouse.
Which one?
Number 3.
Take me out there.
No, I won't. No, wait.
Now, take me out there. Take me out there or I'll kill you. I mean that.
All right, I'll take you out there.
Where, child?
He said he was coming here.
Don't play with me. Don't tell me anything but the truth.
I'm not. He said he was coming here. Steger!
That you, child?
Yeah.
What do you want?
It's Dollar.
Where is he?
I'm here, Steger.
Haven't you gotten yourself into enough trouble, Dollar?
Yeah, plenty.
What's the matter with you, Charles?
He hit me with a gun.
You're liable to find yourself in prison, Dollar. Do you know that?
I've thought about it.
Armed assault? That's a felony, I believe.
I want to know where Aunt Salivar is.
Didn't know you were acquainted.
Yes, you did. Tell me what you did with her.
I didn't do anything with
Where
her.
is she?
I don't know. This is another example of these halfway accusations of yours with no proof. If you can't find her, it's quite possible that she left town.
You wouldn't let her do that.
You don't know what you're talking about, and I've heard enough. I think you've lost your mind.
Steger, don't. Don't leave. I'll kill you if I have to.
No, you won't, Dollar. Because you don't have proof of anything. Well...
Oh, you killed him. What's the matter? You crazy? You killed Steger.
No, I didn't. But you might not be so lucky. So don't do anything I don't tell you to do.
No, I won't. I won't do nothing. What do you want from me?
Take me to that deputy sheriff. I want to be arrested. Expense account item 3, $100 retainer for a lawyer in Farmington, the county seat. Ann Salivar was found in the building where she was being held, and she was released. The rest of it is up to the Treasury men who moved into Stanley Springs after I gave them my statement. Remarks? I won't total this account at the moment as I'm mailing it from the county jail, where I'm being held on the charge of assault with intent to kill. The word is that I'll be freed on the grounds that my assault was justifiable, since it was the only way to stop a man of Norman Steger's power. So I hope to see you soon. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien's special guest this evening was Olga San Juan. Featured in tonight's cast were Ray Hartman, Bill Conrad, and Herb Butterfield. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as...
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Since the fighting began in Korea, prices have been mounting throughout the country. The cost of living today is at an all-time high, and under pressure will rise still higher. We can protect ourselves, our families, and our country against dangerous inflation if each of us will resolve to pay no more than fair prices, to watch for repeated price rises, to buy only what we need, and to refrain from hoarding at the expense of our neighbors and our country. Fight inflation by following those simple rules. Stay tuned now for Von Monroe's Caravan, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where you laugh at Jack Benny every Sunday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.